After the eternal heaven revelation, Yuan Qi's fate is pulled deeper into powers he cannot easily escape. The bond with Honger and Yuer is no longer a simple contract, and Yuan's cold decision leaves that connection unbroken. In Heaven-Defying Sovereign Part 69, a forbidden path to merge two souls begins to appear, while Xia Qingyue points Yuan Qi toward the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor as his ultimate shield. What looks like protection may become the next chain around his destiny. Qianai Fanchen had simply made a brilliant opening move. All of these divine masters, who possessed an extreme amount of pride and dignity, were completely shocked by his actions. After that, it was as if all of them woke up from a dream. Any reservations they had were torn to pieces, and they all strove to be the first one to bow down and loudly declare their devotion. The eternal Heaven God Emperor and the Southern Sea God Emperor knelt and bowed down. The Dragon Monarch also knelt and bowed deeply as he bent his head. The dignity of a divine master, the dignity of a realm king, the dignity of a God Emperor. Their authority and strength were things that all of creation had to look up to for all of their lives. They were like gods who could not be offended or defied. But in front of a primordial devil emperor, they were simply a joke. Only Yuan Qi was left standing, still a little muddle-headed. It was not that he had been frightened, but rather, that was all it took. The Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor simply decided to not bring disaster down upon this world just like that. She had let go of those millions of years of anger and hatred simply because of the words that he had just said. All of the countless worries and feelings of apprehension that they had, the fear and gloom that could not be wiped away no matter how hard they tried. And it had not only been him. Even though the Ice Phoenix divine being had given him all sorts of encouragement and advice. In reality, Yuan Qi had always felt the pessimism contained in her aura and her words. The Ice Phoenix divine being had also indeed said that even though the heretic god divine power he possessed should be able to move the Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor, it should not be able to truly change her will or get rid of her hatred. It was the real existence of Honger and Yuer that was actually their biggest hope. But he had not even mentioned the existence of Honger and Yuer yet. It had not even been 15 minutes since the Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor walked out of that crack in the primal chaos. For her to let go of the millions of years of hatred that had been piling up within her in less than 15 minutes. It was only after he had stood there in a complete daze for a good long while that Yuan Qi suddenly came to his senses and hurriedly knelt down, the complicated feelings and shock in his heart far exceeding his joy. Jia Yuan stood there and looked toward the diamond-shaped crimson crystal embedded in the wall of primal chaos. She remained motionless for a long period of time, her expression unchanging. But a complicated black light continued to flash in her pitch-black devil eyes. She had not died even after being banished outside the primal chaos for several million years, and now that she had finally returned. She wanted revenge, wanted to see him again, wanted to see their daughter. But everyone had died and everything had changed. It was the same world, yet it was also a completely foreign world to her. It was only the power contained in Yuan Qi's body, the power that contained a trace of him, that had welcomed her back. Jia Yuan closed her eyes and lightly gritted her teeth. Her fists were tightly clenched and they were trembling silently. Everyone knew that she was the Devil Emperor. She was an incomparably terrifying existence, and that was especially true for the living creatures of this current world. Yet they had all forgotten that she was also a living being herself, one with a full set of desires and emotions. A living creature whose nature and will had not been warped despite being banished outside the primal chaos for millions of years. She did not utter a sound, but everyone was already kneeling on the ground, and they did not even dare to lift their heads. Yuan Qi, Jia Yuan's voice finally rang in their ears, but she had called out Yuan Qi's name. Yuan Qi raised his head, and following that, his arms and his body were directly lifted up by Jia Yuan. She stared off into the distant void and coldly said, "Follow me somewhere." Yes, Yuan Qi clearly could not refuse. The long needle in Jia Yuan's right hand suddenly shone with a weak red brilliance at that moment. She suddenly cast a small sidelong glance and said something strange. "All of you better keep your mouths shut about the fact that this ruler has returned. When the time comes to tell the people of this universe who their new ruler is, this ruler will be the one who personally announces it. Understand? Yes, yes, yes. Without the Lord Devil Emperor's command, we definitely won't utter a single word." Everyone present answered at once. Before their voices had even faded, a weak red light flashed and Jia Yuan had already disappeared along with Yuan Qi. No one knew where they went. Because they had not left a spatial trace that could be detected, there was not even a single spatial ripple in the air. Because that was the dimensional divine power that belonged to the world piercer. When the Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor departed, that dark, devilish pressure disappeared along with her. Immediately, they felt as if they had escaped billions of heavy chains of darkness, and an indescribable feeling of relaxation spread throughout their bodies. It was as if everyone present had made an agreement beforehand, as they all sat numbly on the ground instead of standing up immediately. All of them breathed heavily, every part of their bodies drenched in ice-cold sweat. Xianxia Fanshan was the first to stand up. He, the person who had lost the 3 Brahma gods, who had nearly been wiped off the face of the earth by Yuan, and who was the first to forsake his pride and dignity, wore a completely calm expression on his face. He looked at everyone present, and a faint smile had even appeared on his face. He gave a sigh that sounded like both a sigh of lamentation and helplessness at the same time as he said, "It's a new era." Everyone stood up one after the other, each of their faces bearing varying degrees of heaviness and complexity. Yes, the Devil Emperor had returned, a new era had come upon the primal chaos, one more true ruler had entered this universe. And it was an absolute ruler at that. To think such a thing would actually happen. Holy Eve's realm King Luo Shangchen sharply inhaled a breath of cold air, his hands still faintly trembling. A gloomy and sorrowful feeling rapidly started to spread. The eternal Heaven God Emperor raised a hand to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. After he took a few slow and unhurried breaths, a faint smile appeared on his face as he said, "No, you're wrong, all wrong. We should count ourselves as extremely fortunate, because there is no better outcome than this." His words caused everyone to turn and look at him. The Devil Emperor returned with a hatred that could cover the entire universe, and this old man was simply awaiting death while in despair. But the words of the Devil Emperor clearly showed that the heretic gods will had reached her, and she will no longer choose to vent her hatred on creation. She even spared us, the ones who have inherited the remaining strength of the god race. As the first person to find out the truth, his words were filled with heartfelt joy. To the eternal Heaven God Emperor who had waited for this day in near despair, the present outcome was no less than a dreamlike paradise. But, given how terrifying the Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor is, if she wants to kill anyone or decides to change her mind on a whim, she can accomplish it with a single thought. Who would be able to stop her then? The Western region's Qilin Emperor said. He. The eternal Heaven God Emperor smiled while he stroked his beard. Have you all forgotten who exactly changed the heart of the Devil Emperor and eliminated all of her hatred? Everyone was stumped for words. The eternal Heaven God Emperor continued gently. We unexpectedly found out that the Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor and the heretic god were husband and wife, and I'm sure that it shook the hearts of all who were present. But for them to not hesitate to break the taboo and marry each other, and even exchange their heavenly profound treasures at that, there is no doubt that the feelings that the two of them shared were extremely deep. Because she had been exiled for a few million years, the Devil Emperor's hatred was greater than the heavens. In this whole world, the only one who can influence her decisions, the only one she would be willing to give up her hatred for, is the heretic god himself. No, it is the one who inherited the will and the divine power of the heretic god, the one who also possesses the sky-poisoned pearl, Yuan. It was also Yuan who convinced the Devil Emperor to let us go with just a few words. At the very least, she has put down her extreme hatred for the time being. The eternal Heaven God Emperor was both emotional and filled with admiration as he continued. Back when Yuan was in the Dragon God realm, Dragon Queen Shenzai imparted light profound energy to him. This old one is making this news known to all, but I trust that all of you have already long heard of this. Furthermore, according to the ancient records, if one desires to cultivate light profound energy, one must first have a sacred heart that will cherish and have compassion on all creation. So by being able to cultivate light profound energy, Yuan has already proven that he has a sacred heart that has compassion for the entire world. He will definitely spare no effort to save the universe, and he will use his own ways to cause the Devil Emperor to gradually set aside all of her hatred. So that the outcome we are most afraid of will never happen again, he will definitely be able to do it. And just now, he has already accomplished that task so easily, right in front of our very eyes. As the eternal Heaven God Emperor spoke, he suddenly turned towards Shunian, Snow Song Realm King. When your disciple Yuan mentioned to this old one that he wanted to attend this eternal Heaven General Assembly, This old one thought that it was merely a passing fancy of his. But I never imagined that he had actually intended to save the world, and he even brought along the power to save it as well. If it weren't for Yuan today, this old one would have died long ago under the wrath of the Devil Emperor. Without Yuan, the God realm would also certainly meet with a great calamity. This sacred act of his should receive respect and honor from all creation. For the Snow Song Realm King to have brought up such a disciple, please receive a bow from this old one. Xuanian's icy brows knit together as she swiftly replied, Eternal Heaven God Emperor, you definitely must not. No, be it the great kindness of saving this old one's life, or the sacred kindness of saving this universe, everyone should bow to the Snow Song Realm King, the Eternal Heaven God Emperor said. He was not trying to flatter her. Instead, every word came from the bottom of his soul. After he said his piece, he faced Xuanian and bowed deeply. Xuanian, what the Eternal Heaven God Emperor said is correct, Xia Qingyue said, walking forward. Everyone has personally witnessed the power of the Devil Emperor. Under the wrath of the Devil Emperor, all living things are but ants before her. If it weren't for Yuan today, a calamity that would engulf the universe might very well have erupted. From this day forward, only Yuan will be able to influence the Devil Emperor's thoughts and cause her to gradually let go of her hatred and rage. Only he can make it so that the current world remains safe and sound for the rest of eternity in the wake of the Devil Emperor's return. If the Snow Song Realm King had not taken him in and nurtured him all those years ago, how would there be today's Yuan? Xia Qingyue's words resounded in the air as he gave a solemn and deep bow, his noble divine master body bent to form a precise right angle. After that, he continued, Snow Song Realm King, please accept a bow from this Xia. Should there be peace in the primal chaos from now on, the debt of saving this world will definitely be forever recorded in the annals of the God realm. Our glazed light realm will also definitely record this in our annals, and we will never forget it. Xia Meiyan stuck her tongue out and whispered, Daddy's at it again. No, Xia Qingyue, who was standing beside her, replied softly, This time, Father is right. If the returned Devil Emperor does not bring about disaster from now on, then Yuan will truly be this universe's Messiah. Those who had personally seen and experienced the dreadfulness of the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor were extremely aware of this point. She possessed the power to exterminate 3 Brahma gods with a single flick of her finger, so it would be all too easy for her to flip the current universe upside down. The inheritor of the heretic god, divine power, the owner of the sky-poisoned pearl, Xia Qingyue, gave a small shake of her head, as she actually felt relieved instead. No wonder she had been completely outclassed by him, even though her profound strength had been one entire realm above his back then. For her to have lost to this sort of freak, despite being one entire realm above him, now that she looked at it, it was something she could definitely accept. With the Eternal Heaven God Emperor having gone first, and with the glazed light realm King echoing his words, which supreme powerhouse present was an idiot. They all swiftly came to their senses after they had recovered from their extreme shock and hurriedly gathered toward where Xuanian was. Even though they were all divine masters, because Xuanian was a middle realm king, she held the lowest status among all who were present. But at this time, she had instantly become the focal point of this gathering. One by one, groups and groups of upper realm kings started to bow down and sing her praises. They all fought to be the first, their postures completely messed up as they totally disregarded their reservations as divine masters. Snow Song Realm King, you must accept this loose bow. This king will personally visit the Snow Song Realm another day to show my heartfelt thanks. Even 10 lifetimes might not be enough to repay this debt of saving the world. Should the Snow Song Realm King encounter any problems in the future, please let my Flying Star Realm know at any time. We are willing to put our lives on the line for you. It's only because of the Snow Song Realm and its king that we have the God-Child Messiah, Yuan. From now on, the Snow Song Realm shall be the world's sacred ground. Should anyone dare to offend it, that person will also be the eternal enemy of my Rising Sun's sacred realm. How fortunate the Eastern Divine Region is to have the Snow Song Realm King and God-Child Yuan. Anyone who was looking at this staged spectacle around Xuanian would be as shocked as a wooden chicken. It was hard to change a person's nature, but that did not mean that their behavior and methods would not change. The strong and weak were opposites. If a person possessed unrivaled power in a lower plane and their majestic might could be felt throughout the world, then they would only ever look down on others and they would never have to look up to anyone. But if that same person was thrown into a higher plane, then perhaps they would have no choice but to wag their tails and beg for pity in order to survive. A divine master was an exalted existence in the higher planes, and no divine master had ever toadied up to a person to this extent before, because at their level only they could decide the life and death of other people on a whim. Meanwhile, there was nobody who could simply decide their fate on a whim either. But now, such a person had appeared. This person could easily control their fates and destroy their entire clans on a whim. Yuan was the only one who could influence this person. And Mu Xuanian also happened to be Yuan Qi's master. As such, that unimaginable and rather ironic scene played out in an extremely natural manner, though it could also be said that this scene had to happen. By comparison, Mu Xuanian was the calmest of them all. No matter how many upper realm kings or king realm seniors thanked or flattered her, her emotions didn't change too much. Back when Yuan Qi had told her everything, the possibility of such a result had entered her mind if Yuan Qi could pacify the returned Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor. But even after it came true, she still found herself unable to get used to it. Everyone here possessed great power and status. Were they really as grateful as they appeared? Maybe they were grateful, but their expression of it had definitely been excessive. What they were really doing was showing their compliance to the laws of survival that had changed drastically since the Devil Emperor's arrival. This time, the Southern Sea God Emperor was the one who walked over to meet her. He had a personal aura that caused the other divine masters to give way of their own accord. When he reached her, he bowed deeply and said, "The Snow Song Realm King is both beautiful and wise to raise a god-child messiah like Yuan Qi. It is Southern Sea's blessing of a lifetime to visit the Eastern Divine Region and meet with the Snow Song Realm King." His earlier frivolousness and arrogance were completely gone. It was impossible to doubt the sincerity behind his politeness, gracefulness, praise, and gratitude right now. "You praise me too much, Southern Sea God Emperor," said Mu Xuanian. "Not at all. These words could hardly express a 10,000th of the respect Southern Sea has for the Snow Song Realm King." The Southern Sea God Emperor immediately said, "If Southern Sea may ask, please visit the Southern Divine Region with God-Child Yuan one day. Southern Sea will personally act as your escort for the entire journey." "It is an honor. If a chance comes by, I shall do as you say," said Mu Xuanian evenly without any haughtiness or disdain. So what if the Southern Sea God Emperor was the strongest God Emperor of the Southern Divine Region? He was just like any other mortal before the Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor. The strong were powerful before the weak, but the role was reversed when they met someone stronger. In the end, they were just people. 2 Southern Divine Region God Emperors later, Luo Shangqian of the Holy Eve's realm finally found a chance to squeeze his way to the front. However, it was clear that his gaze was somewhat evasive, and his footsteps a little unsteady. He had dragged Luo Changsheng with him as well. Luo Shangqian was all smiles as he bowed before Mu Xuanian. "A calamity would have fallen on our heads if it wasn't for the Snow Song Realm King and God-Child Yuan. The Snow Song Realm King's achievement and virtue deserves to be memorized for eons to come. Thinking back to the past, it is only natural that this one's son would lose to God-Child Yuan. God-Child Yuan is the successor of the heretic god and the disciple of the Snow Song Realm King after all. That being said, this one still thinks that it is still the blessing of a lifetime that his son was able to fight God-Child Yuan." Luo Changsheng also bowed and said, "Royal Father is right. That battle against God-Child Yuan isn't something this junior will be able to forget anytime soon." "Oh, right," Luo Shangsheng exclaimed as if he just recalled something before adopting a tone that was both fearful and humble. This Luo just recalled that his younger sister offended the Snow Song Realm due to a personal grudge, although thankfully, the Snow Song Realm King has already punished her for her wrongdoing. Guxi may not be close with the Holy Eve's realm, but she is still my younger sister and Changsheng's master, so I must bear some of the blame. This Luo promises to visit the Snow Song Realm in 10 days to express his regret and apology. If in the future the Snow Song Realm King has need of the Holy Eve's realm, just give them the word and it shall be done." "All right," Mu Xuanian nodded. "This king will remember this." Meanwhile, the eternal Heaven God Emperor wasn't paying attention to the Divine Master's antics. He was recalling everything that had happened after Yuan Qi had shown up in the eternal Heaven realm, and when his emotions finally hit his limit, he said with a sigh, "The Forefather mentioned again and again that this calamity could only be thwarted by a miracle. Now I realize that this miracle has been with us all along." Who could have expected the heretic god to leave behind a seed of hope before his death? Not only that, Yuan actually succeeded in cultivating this hope to perfection. I guess fate has never abandoned this world after all. The heavenly mystery realm is right. Yuan is the fate-chosen child of the heavens. Beside him, the dragon monarch smiled indifferently and said, "It seems that our foresight was right all along." He. The eternal heaven god emperor stroked his beard with a smile when he recalled the memory of dragon monarch wanting to adopt Yuan, and Xianxia Cultivation and himself wanting to take Yuan in as their direct disciple. This old one finally understands why Yuan rejected everyone's invitations back then. As the inheritor of the heretic god's power and the successor to the only creation god inheritance in the entire world, it was probably because he had already been planning to save the world back then. What a commendable spirit. Yuan, in the eternal heaven god emperor's opinion, there was no such thing as excessive praise if they were used on Yuan. Now that I think about, we need to give many thanks to the dragon god realm for what has happened today, said the eternal heaven god emperor. Oh, the dragon monarch turned to look at him. I might not be aware of what Xianxia did to Yuan back then, but it resulted in Yuan being left behind in the dragon god realm and prevented him from returning to the eastern divine region. The eternal heaven god emperor frowned a little at the thought. Thank goodness the dragon queen decided to offer him shelter. Dragon monarch. The dragon queen is an extraordinary woman who transcends the mortal coil. Her foresight is as bright as the stars even though she stays aloof from the world. If she hadn't given Yuan shelter and taught him the light profound energy, things may have ended up in a completely different way. Unfortunately, there aren't many people who knows of her merits, and I highly doubt that the Dragon Queen would care about such things. The eternal heaven god emperor let out another deep sigh. Do bring to the Dragon Queen my gratitude when she has finished her secluded cultivation. He, responded the dragon monarch noncommittally with a smile. His pessimism having turned into optimism, the eternal heaven god emperor shot a look in the direction Yuan had left before turning around and saying, "It is Yuan blessing to receive such favor from the Dragon Queen. Unless I'm sorely mistaken, their relationship should greatly benefit the dragon god realm." Suddenly, the eternal heaven god emperor raised an eyebrow and asked, "Dragon monarch, are you hurt?" He asked this because a trail of blood was actually leaking from the corner of the dragon monarch's lips. The dragon monarch wiped away the blood leaking out from between his teeth before smiling. "My energy and blood went a little haywire when the devil emperor unleashed her aura just now. It is nothing to be concerned about." Amen. The eternal heaven god emperor didn't think much into his unusual reaction. We cannot announce the devil emperor's appearance to the world, but there are still people we must inform and preparations we need to make as quickly as possible, so this dragon will be taking his leave. Sorry for burdening you with the responsibilities of the eastern divine region again, eternal heaven. Then, the dragon monarch added in a seemingly careless manner, "Oh right. Xianxia told me that her secluded cultivation this time is extremely important. It could be as short as several hundred years, or as long as several thousand years. So I'm afraid that I will have to give her your gratitude at a later time." The eternal heaven god emperor replied, "Now you're making this old one anxious with your graciousness, dragon monarch." Then he turned around and mustered authority into his voice. "Everyone, a great panic will spread throughout the entire world if the news of the devil emperor's return is made known. Therefore, please do your best to keep this a secret until the last possible moment. Also, this is an instruction from the devil emperor herself, so for your own sake, please don't break the taboo and draw her ire." Everyone responded with agreement to his announcement. Just as the Brahma heaven god emperor had mentioned earlier, the primal chaos was no longer the same as before. From here on, they were no longer the rule makers of the world. It was in the hands of an absolute ruler no one could overthrow now, in a different space altogether. Technically speaking, the universe was still the same as ever, but the aura that permeated inside this particular space was completely different from before. It was dark, oppressive, and distortive in a way that even light had a shade of darkness in it. However, this particular space that Yan and Yuan were in was unusually empty. There were almost no stars in the background, and the space they were in was dark and desolate. Yuan's heart skipped a beat after he swept a glance at his surroundings. This atmosphere, this aura. Were they in the northern divine region right now? "As I thought, the planet is gone." Yan's voice rang low and lonely beside his ears. Yuan Qi turned to look at her before asking tentatively, "Where is this place, senior?" Jia Yan didn't answer Yuan Qi's question. She closed her eyes and fell silent for a very long time before she finally spoke up again. "How did you come by his power?" Yuan Qi thought for a moment before answering. "The first person who obtained the heretic god's indestructible blood wasn't me, actually. It was my first master of the profound way. She came by this inheritance by accident in the southern divine region, and she ran into me after she contracted a deadly poison. That was why she had decided to use the indestructible blood on me." "The southern divine region?" Jia Yan raised her eyebrows slightly. "What about the sky poison pearl? Where did you get it? And why is its poison spirit completely different from before?" Although the sky poison pearl had fused with Yuan Qi, Jia Yan was still able to see everything in a glance. It was because she was the sky poison pearl's first master. Her connection to the sky poison pearl was primal, unlike any other. "The sky poison pearl is?" This was a very difficult topic to explain, and after choosing his words carefully, all Yuan Qi was able to come up with was a subpar explanation. "My master of the medical way found it by accident in the world I was born in. I swallowed it by accident later on, and it became fused with my body ever since. As for its poison spirit, it was probably forcibly kidnapped by the evil infant's wheel of myriad tribulations. It perished after the myriad tribulations was unleashed, and it just got a new poison spirit 3 years ago." "Swallowed. Fused," Jia Yan shot Yuan Qi a glance. Although she was sure that Yuan Qi wouldn't dare lie to her face, for some reason his explanation made no sense to her. She stretched out her hand and said coldly, "Show me your memories." "Yes." Yuan Qi couldn't disobey her, so he obediently closed his eyes and waited. Jia Yan grabbed Yuan Qi's skull and summoned a flash of black energy. However, a dragon roar suddenly resounded inside her heart and soul, causing her palm to tremble a little and her brows to wrinkle deeply. Slowly, she withdrew her palm and looked at Yuan Qi in a new light. "You're just a young mortal, but you have his power and 4 divine souls in you. The heavens favor you a little too much, I think." Yuan Qi, never mind." Jia Yan withdrew her glance and said, "Your soul is now a world of its own, and it is protected by the dragon god divine soul. I'd rather not risk damaging your soul by reading your memories by force." Jia Yan's words caused a deep shudder in Yuan Qi's mind. She actually gave up on reading his memories just because she didn't wish to harm a mere mortal's divine soul. So far, this Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor had proven herself to be completely different from the hate-filled devil gods in his imagination. "It is your destiny to obtain his power," Jia Yan said slowly, "and it is your fortune to obtain the sky poison pearl. Now that he has passed away, and the sky poison pearl has found a new master, there is simply no need for me to probe too deeply." Her words sounded incredibly lost and mournful in this dark world. She had finally returned, but both the people she loved and the people she hated were already gone. Yuan Qi wasn't Jia Yuan. He couldn't understand how it felt to be her right now. At this point, the Devil Emperor no longer scared Yuan Qi. In fact, his earlier worries might have been completely unnecessary. That was why he decided to take the lead for once and asked, "Senior, why have you brought me here?" Jia Yan replied a little distractedly, "There was once a planet in this space. It was a planet we had created together." Yuan Qi, although he was a creation god, his creation skill was the lousiest out of all 4 creation gods. He even had to borrow my hand to finish the first planet he ever created, the planet we created together. It was also on this planet we became married and had our daughter. Unfortunately, there's simply no way that planet could have survived that terrible war. Jia Yuan clenched her hands into fists. Her hatred, her fury, her hope, her desires, everything was gone in this completely strange and unfamiliar world before her. The only thing that was left in her was emptiness and a sense of loss. The people she loved, the people she hated, the people she knew, and even the memories of the past had all returned to dust. Why did I even want to return here? Why did I fight so hard to live all those years? Emperor was too absorbed in her own world. She didn't even notice that Yuan Qi's gaze had been changing slightly all this time. The first planet created by the heretic god? Wait a second. Back then, the Golden Crow spirit had purposely mentioned that the first planet created by the heretic god was. When Jia Yuan came back to herself, she finally noticed some slight changes in Yuan Qi's gaze and aura. She asked coldly, "Speak your thoughts or ask any questions you have directly. Stop being so overcautious and acting like you have something to hide. He was nothing like you way back then." Jia Yuan's criticism sounded harsh. but it unintentionally showed that her image of Yuan Qi had more or less overlapped with heretic god Xuan somewhat. Everything had returned to dust, and even that era was a thing of the past. Yuan Qi was the only trace and longing she could find in this world. Yuan Qi said, "Senior Devil Emperor, you are completely different from what I'd predicted." "Predicted?" Xia Yuan smiled indifferently. "You must have thought I would vent my anger on the world, didn't you? The advent of the devils, the loss of countless lives, the destruction of all things living or dead. You thought that that was what a devil should do, didn't you?" "That is exactly right," replied Yuan Qi honestly. "It wasn't just him. Everyone thought that of the devils, and worse. After all, a devil had always been looked upon as the most ruthless and sinful existence in the eyes of the people, much less a devil god or a devil emperor who had been holding their hatred for several million long years. However, this junior didn't think what he did because you were a devil, senior. In my opinion, any living creature who suffered a ploy like that and countless years of tribulations would naturally become." Yuan Qi paused for a moment before deciding to change the subject. "On the other hand, this junior could tell even from this brief contact that you're a far better person than I initially thought, senior. It's no wonder the heretic god fell in love with you." "Heh!" Jiu Yan let out an indifferent laugh. "What's a good person and what's a bad person? A good person is a god, and a bad person who shouldn't exist in the world is a devil. That was the way back in the past, and I can see that it is still the way today. There is no way this lost land of devils would become this petty otherwise." Yuan Qi subconsciously looked to the front. So, they were currently in the northern divine region, also known as the land of the devils during the era of gods. "It is as you say, senior. The world today is no different from what it was before," said Yuan Qi. "Today, any creature who cultivates darkness profound energy is still known a devil. Be it devil persons, devil beasts, or devil spirits, they are all hated and rejected by any non-devil creature. They are all seen as heretics that shouldn't exist in the world. That is why this northern divine region, the old land of the devils, is more like a cage to keep the devils away than an actual divine region. It is because any denizen who tries to leave the northern divine region and is spotted will be eliminated without mercy. Devils are existences that must be annihilated no matter what the cost. That is the common sense of every living thing in the primal chaos right now. A deeply rooted belief that's as simple and natural as the common sense that water can extinguish fire. It was like this even when I was younger, in fact. The prejudice towards devils these days may be even worse than it was way back in your time, senior." Xia Yuan. "Also, I'm sure you'd noticed it already, but the aura of the primal chaos has changed drastically since the era of gods. Due to the extinction of both the god race and the devil race, the power level of the primal chaos has plunged, and its aura has become thin and murky. The people you saw just now were the strongest people in the entire world. The one with the aura of true dragons is the strongest of them all. He might not even be worth mentioning in your eyes, but he is undoubtedly the strongest expert in the entire primal chaos." He had purposely mentioned the dragon monarch, the supreme ruler of the current primal chaos, so that Xia Yuan would understand the current level of the primal chaos better. Another change that's still happening to the aura of the primal chaos is the continued decline of primal chaos yin energy. It might be because there are fewer and fewer creatures who cultivate darkness profound energy. As a result, the northern divine region has been shrinking year after year, and it is very possible that it may vanish from the world entirely one day. Yuan Qi spoke very directly this time. These were all common sense in the god realm anyway. "Are you trying to divert my attention?" Yuan Qi's mouth opened slightly. Xia Yuan had clearly seen through his thoughts. "HMPH. The current world, what does the successor of the gods or devils have anything to do with me? Why would I care about their lives or deaths?" Xia Yuan turned around and shot Yuan Qi a cool glance. "There was one thing you've been mistaken about from the start. Were you thinking that I was the reason why he had left behind his origin power inheritance at great cost to himself? Please tell me, senior." Yuan Qi was astonished. "Was that an incorrect assumption? There is no one who trusts and understands me more than Xuan. He would know that I would never kill those who are undeserving, no matter how great my hatred and anger is. If old villain Mo'i hadn't passed away, if the god race hadn't gone extinct, I wouldn't even have lost my mind for a second and killed those 3 mortals who inherited the Brahma heaven-divine power." Xia Yuan's expression subconsciously turned gentle. "After all, that was my promise to him a long time ago." "Yuan Qi, promise?" He had hoped that the god race and the devil race could set aside their long-time prejudice and live in peace with each other. He had hoped that the god race could gradually change their preconception of the devil race. It was a wish that I was willing to carry out, so I promised him that I would never kill a god or a mortal without good reason. It has been many years since I'd made that promise, but I still will not break my promise to him. Yuan. Yuan's recognition of devils had never stayed constant all these years, but today it had been turned completely upside down. The heretic god had wanted the gods and devils to set down their prejudices and live together in peace. However, it was obvious that he had failed and sunk into despair. That was why the world had lost a creation god of the elements and gained a heretic god afterward. It's true that he left behind his inheritance to remind me to treat this new world with kindness. It is also true that I have no intention of breaking my promise. However, that promise doesn't apply to my clansmen. Your clansmen? Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly. You cannot even begin to imagine how scary the world outside the primal chaos is, Yuan said slowly in a low tone. Me and my clansmen may have been able to survive due to the world piercer, but did you know about the price we had to pay? She extended her arm and bared the countless scars on it. Every single one of them was a ghastly sight to see. Yuan had seen far too many scars his whole life, but these ones had appeared on a devil emperor's body. Worse, they were scars that not even a devil emperor could remove. Yuan looked away after just a quick glance. If you're the only one who has returned, senior, does that mean that your clansmen have already? Many have passed away one after another over the past millions of years, but some still live to this day. However, they number less than 100 today. A total of 900 devil gods had been exiled besides the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor back then. The fact that less than 100 devil gods were left today meant that only 10% of the devil gods had survived until today, but 10% was still a number that caused a shiver in Yuan's heart. Less than 100 was still almost 100. Almost 100 devil gods were still alive to this day. They might not be as powerful as the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, but they were still true devils of the ancient times. If they're still alive then, why haven't they returned with you, senior? Yuan's heart tightened abruptly. The world piercer has opened a spatial passage that connects the inside and outside of the primal chaos. This passage can exist for a long time without outside interference. The rhombus-shaped crimson crystal that had appeared on the wall of primal chaos immediately entered Yuan's mind. So that was the passage, and not the crack on the wall like everyone thought. The world piercer was different from the ancestral sword or the evil infant's wheel of myriad tribulations. The latter, too, had broken apart the wall of primal chaos by force with incredibly high-level power. But what the world piercer did was to interact with its space. In other words, the spatial power of the wall of primal chaos had been switched with the dimensional divine power of the world piercer. What this meant was that any creature could enter or exit the primal chaos freely as long as that passage exists. The environment beyond the primal chaos is incomparably complex and scary. A spatial passage must be built to reach from the smaller world we lived in to the wall of primal chaos. I was able to reach the wall immediately using the world piercer, but my clansmen will have to spend all their power in completing that spatial passage. The process should take them several months' time. Well, why haven't you brought them all with you using the world piercer? Asked Yuan. The process should take several months' time, she had said. Yuan's heart tightened once more when he heard this. At first, he thought that the rest of the devil gods had died away since the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor was alone. But he was wrong. The remaining devil gods would still be making their return in at most a few months' time, even if the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor hadn't gone back to receive them. HMPH, the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor said, it took me several years to build a passage on the wall of primal chaos. I had thought that the god race would definitely notice my efforts and prepare a welcoming party for me. And I didn't want my entire race to charge foolishly into danger and perish alongside me. I never thought that they would go extinct before us. Yuan. Also, Yuan raised her arm and looked at the glowing red spike that was the world piercer. The world piercer doesn't have much power in it anymore. At first, I thought that I would be able to restore its power very quickly, but looking at the primal chaos aura today, forget several months. Even several thousand years still won't be enough to recover enough power to bring them here. They'll have to rely on themselves. They've been anticipating this for a very, very long time. said Jia Yuan coldly as she stared into the distance. Yuan Qi worked hard to control his emotions before saying, "When the devil gods return, please do your best to appease them, Senior Jia Yuan. Otherwise, this world will definitely be embroiled in catastrophe." If this was the real reason the heretic god had left behind his inheritance and will, then he thought that Jia Yuan would agree to it. But contrary to his expectations, Jia Yuan said coldly, "Appease? HMPH, do you seriously think I can appease them all? Senior is a devil emperor and the emperor of the Heaven Smiting Devil clan, no less. The reason they survived long enough to return to the primal chaos is all thanks to Senior and your world piercer. Therefore, there is no reason they wouldn't obey your command if you willed it so," Yuan Qi emphasized. As Senior herself said earlier, this is the heretic god's wish. "Naive," Jia Yuan criticized coldly. "Do you even know what millions of years of hatred, torture, pain, despair, and death really means?" Yuan Qi. "It is true that it wasn't enough to twist my true nature, but the same cannot be said for either true gods or true devils. Everything they have suffered was enough to turn them into actual devils through and through." Yuan Qi didn't doubt Jia Yuan's words in the slightest. The god race may be extinct, but their hatred must be vented somehow. No one can stop them until they're finished venting, not even me. As their emperor, I am the one who saw them all suffer, hate, turn insane, and finally over millions of years. How can I stop them after everything? In fact, they were the victims who got caught in a plot against me. What right do I possibly have to stop them? She turned and stared at Yuan Qi coldly. All I can control is myself. Since you have his power, I can promise to protect you and the people around you. But when they return, whatever they plan to do has nothing to do with me. I will not, cannot, and do not deserve to interfere with their wishes. Not even he can overturn this outcome if he was still alive. But, no buts, Jia Yuan's voice turned even colder. This is the absolute, most generosity I can give, not to mention that my world is already long gone. Everything I cared about has turned into dust and nothingness, so none of this is related to me any longer. The death of others shouldn't be a concern to you either. No one could say that you haven't done enough for the world around you, so you need not say anything more. No. Yuan Qi shook his head slowly and firmly. Senior Devil Emperor, you still have some concerns in this world. Yuan Qi's words failed to draw any reaction from Jia Yuan. As she had said earlier, that was the absolute most generosity she could give. Besides Yuan Qi, there was nothing in this world that gave her a sense of fulfillment or familiarity at all. Yuan Qi continued, "The reason I say that is because you still have a home and a family in this world." This one line caused Jia Yuan to break out of her sense of desolation and loss in an instant. She stared at him with a frown and asked, "What did you say?" "Senior, have you heard of a planet named Blue Pole Star?" said Yuan Qi slowly. "Blue Pole Star? I've never heard of such a planet." Jia Yuan's eyebrows sank even deeper. "What did you mean by that just now?" Yuan Qi lifted his left hand, but in the end he couldn't muster the courage to summon hunger. Instead, he turned around and said, "Please bring me to this place, Senior." While saying that, he formed a soul imprint at the tip of his finger. Jia Yuan didn't even look at the soul imprint he created, much less touched it. A sweep of her spiritual perception later, she grabbed Yuan Qi as the world piercer flashed red. The space before them switched suddenly, and a sea of blue suddenly replaced the desolate, dark world from before. When it came to super long-distance spatial travel, even the most powerful, profound spatial formation in the world had to spend a long time transporting its passengers to their desired location. However, the world piercer's teleportation time was so short that he didn't even notice it until after reaching there. The watery blue planet before their eyes was just an ordinary lower realm planet. In fact, it was so ordinary that no god realm denizen could be bothered to take a glance at it. It was the Blue Pole Star. It hadn't even been a month since he took off to the god realm. After hearing Jia Yuan's words and recalling the world he was most familiar with, his birthplace had taken on a whole new meaning again in his mind. He spoke up before Jia Yuan could shoot him a question. "This planet is the Blue Pole Star this junior mentioned earlier." Blue Pole Star is this junior's birthplace. Nearly 99% of this planet is made up of seawater. The land that makes up 1% of this planet is split into 3 very distant continents. The reason it is called the Blue Pole Star is because the entire surface is blue with seawater. He looked at Jia Yuan and asked, "Do you remember this planet? Senior HMPH." Jia Yuan gave a snort before saying disdainfully, "Why would I recognize a planet of mortals in the eastern region?" Yuan Qi, "Huh." Jia Yuan swept a glance at her surroundings before continuing. This planet has an ancient presence, but its aura is unusually thin. It's obvious that it has suffered some sort of external impact a long time ago and gone through at least one catastrophic destruction, if not more. That is why its land is so scarce. Suddenly, her voice was cut short before she could finish. Her cold, indifferent eyes suddenly started shaking with indescribable emotion. She abruptly turned around and looked left and right erratically. She even lost control of her spiritual perception as it enveloped the entire planet. Her pupils started shaking more and more violently. In the end, even her body was starting to tremble involuntarily. This aura, could it be? Could it be? The Devil Emperor's unusual reaction cleared out all of Yuan Qi's doubts. He continued, "This planet isn't as ordinary as it seems, because I inherited both my heretic god Divine Power and the Sky Poison Pearl on this planet. In fact, 3 out of 4 of my divine souls, the Phoenix Divine Soul, the Dragon God Divine Soul, and the Golden Crow Divine Soul, came from this small planet as well." Jia Yuan continued to stare into the distance and perceived the entire planet with her spiritual perception. Her aura was slightly erratic, and she looked like she wasn't listening to Yuan Qi at all. It was only after I had reached the God realm that I realized how unusual it was for an ordinary lower realm planet to hide this many true God legacies. In fact, the Golden Crow spirit that gifted me my Golden Crow, Divine Soul, told me that this planet was the very first planet the heretic god had created a long time ago. It's just that its current location seems far removed from where you remember it to be. Jia Yuan. My guess is that countless planets were turned to dust during the terrible war between the god race and the devil race. After all, it was a calamity that killed both gods and devils in droves, much less fragile planets. Although this planet is small and ordinary, it is also the place where the heretic god and you formed ties with each other and consummated your love. There is no way the heretic god would have allowed it to be destroyed. Therefore, he must have borne a giant risk, spent a huge amount of energy to protect it from destruction, and used a method I couldn't even imagine to move it from the battlefield to a relatively peaceful corner of the primal chaos. Jia Yuan continued to stare forward as her eyes turned misty. She muttered to herself distractedly, "It's still here, it's actually still here." Yuan Qi smiled and said, "Senior, your home isn't the only thing that still exists in this world. Your daughter is still alive as well." In that instant, it was as if Jia Yuan had been struck by a giant hammer of heaven. Her temporary loss of control even resulted in Yuan Qi being hit by a sudden wave of devilish aura that shook his body and caused his blood to rise to the top of his throat. However, Jia Yuan was already grabbing the front of his clothes as her pitch-black eyes came within an inch of his eyes. "What did you say?" Yuan Qi couldn't breathe at all. He had to use almost all his willpower to force out his answer. "Your daughter is still alive. She's on this planet right now." This time, Jia Yuan didn't let a single word slip by her consciousness. His answer caused the Devil Emperor's pupils to swell to twice its normal size. Where is she? Where is no, you're lying to me. She can't still be alive, you're lying to me." When Jia Yuan had returned to the primal chaos after millions of years of exile, she had been so calm that it was almost scary. But now her eyes had lost their color, her aura was chaotic, and her body was trembling. She looked like a wild animal who had suddenly lost its mind. Yuan Qi felt like his body was about to crumble under the Devil Emperor's grasp. He opened his mouth, but he just couldn't say another word after that. Jia Yuan regained a bit of clarity of mind and released Yuan Qi after realizing his condition, but her aura was still erratic as she stared at him with glowing black eyes. She said, "It's impossible that I couldn't detect her if she was still alive. You have to be lying to me." Yuan Qi clutched his chest and took in a couple of deep breaths. Doing his best to calm himself down, he said, "I dare not lie to you, Senior. There's a special reason why she was able to avoid that calamity back then, and why you aren't able to detect her even now. You'll understand what I'm saying once you see her. I'll lead you to her right away." Jia Yuan couldn't see any shiftiness or fear in Yuan Qi's tone or eyes. This caused her heart to beat even faster as she replied in a low tone, "If it turns out to be a lie, then I'll tear you apart. Please come with me, Senior." The worse Jia Yuan was reacting, the calmer Yuan Qi actually became. He quickly picked up the direction of the azure cloud continent and started flying toward his destination. However, Jia Yuan grabbed him by the arm before he could go far and said urgently, "You move like a tortoise. Just tell me where it is." Literally no one could catch up to Yuan Qi's extreme mirage lightning at the same profound level. But in Jia Yuan's eyes, he was about as slow as a tortoise. Yuan Qi released a soul imprint to inform where exactly Cloud's End Cliff was on the Azure Cloud continent. Then, zip. His soul and mind were still stuck at the same spot, but his body had already moved to another place far away from here. By the time he finally returned to Earth, he realized that he was already standing at the edge of Cloud's End Cliff. He felt so numb and shaky that it was as if someone had beat him up for several days and nights in a row. Holy shit, this is no different from spatial teleportation. Even Yuan Qi's soul was shaking like a leaf. Jia Yuan frowned slightly as she stared at the bottomless abyss beneath them. She muttered to herself, "Why is there a pocket world here? Wait, this aura," she shivered as if she was struck by thunder. Then she jumped right off the cliff without a care. "Senior," Yuan Qi subconsciously shouted after Jia Yuan, but the Devil Emperor had already vanished into the darkness below. Yuan Qi's hesitation lasted for only a brief instant. He quickly leaped off Cloud's End Cliff and chased after Jia Yuan at his fastest speed. Yuan Qi passed through many layers of darkness before arriving in a world of darkness he was intimately familiar with at this point. This time, though, he couldn't hear any devil beasts roar at all. The only things that greeted him were darkness and silence. He guessed that they had probably collapsed to the ground in shock and terror because of Jia Yuan's aura. Yuan Qi withdrew his own aura and flew towards Yuer's location. Soon, he was greeted by the familiar sight of a glowing purple field and Jia Yuan. The Devil Emperor stood in the darkness and stared at the girl with half a soul sleeping amidst a sea of netherworld Udambara flowers. The light of the netherworld Udambara flower was cold and mysterious, but it was also the only thing that kept her company in this world of darkness. In the sea of flowers, Yuer slept with her arms held close to her chest and her legs curled upward. She looked like a sleep-loving cat who was a little afraid of the cold. She also looked very quiet and lonely. No one could look at her without feeling a heartache. Jia Yuan didn't move close to her. She simply stood at a distance and stared at her without a sound. Yuan Qi obviously didn't need to tell Jia Yuan who the girl was. After all, there was no mother who wouldn't recognize their own daughter no matter how much time had passed. Of course, Jia Yuan had easily figured out Yuer's current condition. She didn't have a body, not even a complete soul. She had to stay in this darkness and the nether energy of the Udambara flower field to keep her soul from dissipating. Everything told her that the girl before her couldn't leave this cold and lonely world of darkness she was in. She couldn't even leave this field of netherworld Udambara flowers for long before having to return. This meant that she had endured an unimaginable period of darkness and loneliness until this day. "Senior," Yuan Qi called out to Jia Yuan softly. Jia Yuan didn't react to his words at all. Yuan Qi softened his footsteps and walked next to Jia Yuan. He was about to say something when he suddenly froze in his tracks. It was an unbelievable sight. A single tear had slid down Jia Yuan's cheeks slowly, refracting the glow of the Udambara flowers before falling down to the black ground beneath her without a sound. Yuan Qi, it was the tear of a devil emperor. He had witnessed something even the ancient gods and devils hadn't seen in their entire lives, not that they would believe that such a thing was even possible. Slowly, Jia Yuan touched the tear stain on her cheek. Perhaps even she couldn't believe that she was capable of tears. Her eyes never left the girl with only half a soul in a sea of flowers. "Even if we were wrong," her mutter sounded like the sleep talk of a painful nightmare. "Even if we were doomed to suffer the heaven's wrath for breaking the taboo of gods and devils, what wrong did our daughter do? What wrong did our daughter do?" Every word that Jia Yuan uttered contained a pain that felt like an arrow rain piercing through one's soul. From the moment she saw her, she immediately knew that she was her daughter. She should be overjoyed for reuniting her daughter after millions of years of separation. But when she saw her daughter as a lonely, broken soul who was stuck in a world of darkness for millions of years, her joy and excitement were extinguished by a pain that was worse than even the millions of years she suffered outside of the primal chaos. Two daughters, when a child was in pain, their parents normally felt it 10 times worse. It was something Yuan Qi understood only after he had had his own daughter. As it turned out, not even a devil emperor was an exception to this rule. In fact, Jia Yuan's pain seemed to be a lot worse because she was racked with terrible guilt and self-blame. Yuan Qi could only understand her feelings all too well. After Mo-Yi had exiled Senior, the heretic god challenged him to a battle. That was the battle that decided your daughter's fate. At first, the heretic god seemed to have the upper hand over Mo-yi, but Mo-yi then used the ancestral sword to beat the heretic god. Yuan-Chi told Jia Yuan the Ice Phoenix's speculation of that fateful battle. It was just a speculation, but Jia Yuan didn't doubt his words in the slightest. It was because she knew Mo-yi's character better than anyone. He was an absolutely righteous and stubborn god. After learning that she had copulated with the heretic god and given birth to a taboo, he had gone so far as to employ the ancestral sword and lowly tricks that he normally would never use to exile her from the primal chaos. He would never have allowed their child to live, or allowed himself to lose that fight. Perhaps it was because Mo-yi was ashamed of the way he won. He changed his mind and allowed part of your daughter to live. However, he demanded that the devil part in her must be destroyed, and that no one must know that she was your and the heretic god's daughter. Jia Yuan. In the end, her body was destroyed and her soul was cut apart. However, the heretic god just couldn't bear to destroy the devil part of her soul in the end. So he took a great risk and used a special method to trick Mo-yi, hiding her devil's soul in this place. That was why she was able to escape that world-ending calamity and survive to this day. Jia Yuan simply stared at her daughter blankly without speaking for a long time. It wasn't even clear if she was listening to Yuan-Chi. Maybe it is because her soul is incomplete, but she cannot speak, and her expressions and emotions are also lacking. That being said, her ability to understand others is unharmed. Moreover, she seems to adore bright colors a lot. Her emotions are the clearest whenever she sees something bright and colorful. Oh right, Yuan-Chi added. I didn't know what her original name was, so I called her Yuer instead. Jia Yuan finally reacted to Yuan-Chi's words. The name was no doubt another source of torment to her. Naturally, the reason Yuan-Chi had decided to call her Yuer was because she was a ghost in every sense of the word. Her name is Nai Jai, said Jia Yuan softly. She didn't get angry with Yuan-Chi because of the name. She also continued staring at Yuer as if she was the only thing in the entire world. Nai Jai, defying tribulations. The name was made using the word Nai from Nai Xuan and Jai from Jia Yuan. Behind the name was a hope that their daughter could break through all tribulations and live in peace forever. After all, her birth itself had been the world's greatest taboo. It was at this moment the girl in the sea of netherworld Udambara flowers slowly opened her eyes, adding a tinge of color to the world. She woke up because she had sensed Yuan-Chi's presence. Jia Yuan shivered all over before freezing on the spot. This ancient devil emperor was so powerful that she had caused an entire group of divine masters to piss their pants in terror. But now she was panicking so much that she was at a complete loss for words or action. Yuer slowly got to her feet and saw Yuan-Chi. Her unfocused eyes instantly turned bright with color as a tiny but identifiable smile bloomed across her face. The little girl flew toward Yuan-Chi in a hurry and held him tightly and affectionately. Only then did she realize that there was another person besides Yuan-Chi, turning to stare at Jia Yuan in puzzlement. However, she didn't look away even though her puzzlement had passed. She continued to stare at Jia Yuan blankly until her doubt took on an indescribable shape. Yuer's sudden approach had caused Jia Yuan to freeze up completely. She stared at Yuer as Yuer stared at her. The mother and daughter who had been separated for millions of years were finally reunited. However, this reunion was much too distant and broken to be anything but sorrowful. Do you still remember me? Jia Yuan asked softly as Yuer continued to stare blankly at her. Yuan-Chi couldn't move his lips. When a soul was split, their memories would fall apart completely, so it was impossible for Yuer to still remember Jia Yuan. As the highest existence in this world, Jia Yuan should know this better than anyone. Who would have thought that even a devil emperor would want to deceive herself sometimes? Yuer couldn't answer her question. However, she suddenly raised a hand in an attempt to touch Jia Yuan. It looked like she was trying to perceive Jia Yuan's existence. It was true that she couldn't remember Jia Yuan or the past at all, but she was still Jia Yuan's daughter. It was a relationship so rooted in every corner of the soul that it could never be replaced or erased. Her daughter's hand passed through her body. She could sense her confusion and the trace of instinctual intimacy in her. Jia Yuan slowly crouched on the ground and tried to put a hand to Yuer's cheeks, but her hand simply refused to move closer past a certain point. Her lips trembled, and she wasn't able to say a word for a very long time. It was just like when Yuan-Chi had found his daughter, but didn't dare to touch her no matter what. It was because he was afraid that it was a dream that would pop at the slightest touch, that his blood-stained hands would tarnish her perfection, and the infinite regret he held close to his heart. Yuan-Chi turned his head away, be it people or devil emperors, parents were all the same apparently. Yuan-Chi said very softly, from now on you won't be alone anymore. She is don't tell her. Jia Yuan's sudden shout stopped Yuan-Chi short. He looked up at her in shock and puzzlement. Don't! Jia Yuan looked at before shaking her head. Her voice suddenly became very soft. Don't tell her. Yuan-Chi nodded. Right now he couldn't match Jia Yuan's current image with the title Devil Emperor at all. His emotions grew jumbled for a moment as he thought to himself. In the end, Yuan-Chi made up his mind and gritted his teeth a bit as he said, Senior, the other half of her soul is actually still alive today. Jia Yuan abruptly looked at him again. What did you say? Yuan-Chi inhaled slightly before starting. After your daughter's soul was separated, the heretic god entrusted the part that was allowed to live to the Sword Spirit God clan. Later on, it seemed like the patriarch of the Sword Spirit God clan had completed her soul with his own divine soul before remaking her body afterward. Jia Yuan raised her eyebrows a little because Yuan-Chi's explanation had contradicted with what she knew. However, she chose not to interrupt him for the moment. After that, she lived with the Sword Spirit God clan as the patriarch's daughter. The patriarch treated her like his own daughter, and she was also loved by her entire clan. Therefore, her life during those years was probably quite pleasant. Even now, she is still living happily and without worry. After the war began, the Sword Spirit God clan became the first god race that was destroyed by the devil race. To keep her safe, the Sword Spirit God clan had put her into the primordial the spirit world of heaven and earth, and sent her away into the gaps between space. That was why she was able to escape that calamity as well. The spirit world of heaven and earth. Did you just say the spirit world of heaven and earth? Jia Yuan's reaction grew a little intense. It was because she knew that the heretic god had gifted the Sword Spirit God clan the spirit world of heaven and earth back, when he was still the creation god of the elements. Considering that the spatial divine energy of the spirit world of heaven and earth had been engraved with the world piercer itself, it was definitely possible for it to endure in the gaps between space for a long time. This also meant that Yuan-Chi was actually telling the truth. Where is she right now? Asked Jia Yuan urgently before Yuan-Chi could say anything. Meanwhile, Yuan turned to look at Yuan-Chi with the same confused look on her face. It was impossible to tell if she had understood their conversation. Yuan-Chi extended his left arm, although he was still afraid of the consequences. The sword imprint on his arm flashed once, and a vermilion light was forcefully ejected from it. Plop, Yuan-Chi hadn't bothered to adjust his summoning posture, and Hunger was in deep sleep as usual. As a result, she was jolted awake with a yelp of pain after landing squarely on her butt. That huwuits. AI, she was just about to give Yuan-Chi a harsh scolding for disturbing her sleep so roughly, when she noticed that her surroundings were dark and glowing purple. Then she saw Yuan and greeted her with curling eyebrows and a wave of the hand. Hi, Yuan, I'm here to play with you again. Then her vermilion eyes immediately landed on Jia Yuan and stayed affixed for a long time. Jia Yuan was staring at Hunger distractedly. Unlike Yuan, the girl in front of her had a complete life, body, and soul. Her face was also exactly the same as usual, and the aura she carried was something she would never forget for eternity. It was her daughter's aura after all, Hunger and Yuan. They were both the daughters of the heretic god and the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor. Their birth and existence was a taboo that was rejected by the world itself. Their mother had been exiled after they were born, and their father had become discouraged after their soul had been split in half. One of them led a happy life but could never know who her true parents were. The other could only stay hidden in an abyss of darkness and live alone forever. Their fate was sorrowful and difficult, but miraculously both had managed to escape the calamity that had destroyed both the god race and the devil race. So who are you, big sis? Hunger asked in a crisp and true voice after staring blankly at Jia Yuan for a moment. Her voice sounded especially clear in the world of darkness. Big sis? Yuan-Chi's mouth twitched violently when he heard that. Jia Yuan felt like she was floating as she watched Hunger's high spirit, stared into her star-like pupils, and listened to her spring-like voice. She actually couldn't say a word in reply. Hey! Hunger blinked and carefully stared at Jia Yuan for a long while. Then she smiled brightly at her before saying, I may not know who you are, big sis, but I can tell you that you're very pretty. Not only was Jia Yuan's face completely covered in scars, they were scars that could never be healed. Anyone would have been frightened to see her the way she was right now. However, hunger had told her that she was pretty without hesitation, and her gaze and expression were such that it was impossible for anyone to doubt her sincerity. The corner of Jia Yuan's lips seemed to curl into a tiny smile. "You think I'm pretty?" "Yep," Hunger nodded seriously. "Your looks are a bit unusual, but Hunger still thinks that you're very pretty." Jia Yuan pursed her lips tightly and smiled. Again, her tears started falling uncontrollably. "Master," it was at this moment Hunger cocked her head at Yunqi and asked, "Who is this pretty big sis? Is she your new wife?" "At number percent." Yunqi's knees went weak, and he nearly collapsed to the ground on the spot. Jia Yuan slowly shifted her gaze toward Yunqi and asked in a heavy voice, "Master." Yunqi trembled with fear and took a small step back. "This junior shall not disturb your reunion. I'll wait outside." Without finishing his sentence, Yunqi madly rushed out at lightning speed and disappeared in a flash. Jia Yuan did not seal his movements, and Hunger looked at her as she blinked continuously. Miraculously enough, she did not scamper off after him. "Big sis, who are you?" Hunger asked with a curious expression. "Master seems to be very afraid of you, and your body seems to be giving off a very strange feeling. It's as if, She turned her head suddenly and asked Yuan with a baffled expression on her face. "Yuan, am I right?" Yuer's lips gently parted, but her gaze followed the direction Yunqi had left in. Jia Yuan gave a faint smile, and her expression and gaze were devoid of their previous gloominess or severity. The only thing that was left was a tinge of gentleness that even she found incredible as she said, "Your name is Hunger." "That's right," Hunger smiled, brows arcing up. "This is the name Master gave me." "Oh right, Master also gave you her name. It's super cute, isn't it? I need to chase after Master, bye." Having said that, her body made a whooshing sound as she turned around. Her red hair flowed behind her, and she was about to give chase, after all. She had never left Yunqi's side before. Jia Yuan hurriedly stretched out her hand to grasp Hunger's tiny hand. "Hunger, accompany me and Yuan just to chat for a while more, all right?" "Eh?" Hunger looked at her, then at Yuan and hesitantly spoke. "But Master ran away suddenly and I can't be away from him." Jia Yuan's brows gave a small twitch as she looked at Hunger and gently asked, "Star gods, soul star relegation?" "So star really gates." "What's that, big sis? Your words are so strange." Hunger said with a puzzled expression. "Could that be big sister's name?" "You don't know?" Jia Yuan was slightly startled. "Of course. I don't want to know such an ugly-sounding name," Hunger said while turning her head to glance in the direction Yunqi had run in. Her expression was clearly growing more and more strained. She already felt uneasy even though she had only left Yunqi for a few minutes. "Hunger, do you fancy that boy?" Jia Yuan asked. "Does big sis mean master?" "Of course I like him." Hunger's eyes suddenly turned much brighter when she was asked that question. "But he used some star god's soul star relegation technique to hold your life and soul captive. This technique attached you to him, you can never leave his side, and you must live and die with him. Could it be that you don't hate him for this in the least?" Hunger's eyes widened when she heard Jia Yuan's words. She stared at Jia Yuan for a long while before replying puzzledly, "Big sis, your words are so strange. No one in this whole world treats Hunger better than Master. Although he is a little annoying at times, I don't ever want to leave Master in this lifetime." Jia Yuan. "My heart feels really funny after leaving Master for so long." Hunger kept looking backwards as she said, "I'm going after Master now. Bye-bye, big sis." Upon finishing her sentence, she turned into a beam of brilliant vermilion light and instantly disappeared into the darkness. This time, Jia Yuan did not stop her. Her hand had frozen in midair, and there was an indescribably complicated expression on her face. In front of her, Yuan was also looking in the direction that Yunqi had left in. Jia Yuan could tell from a single look that even though Yuan had an indifferent expression, her heart felt a sense of longing. Her hand fell, and she closed her eyes amidst the darkness as she sensed her daughter's existence. With every moment, great waves of chaos shook the depths of her soul. Everyone, the ones she loved, the ones she hated, her kinsmen, her enemies, they were all dead. That era had long ended, and everything had turned to dust. Even the entire primal chaos had changed so drastically. Only, our family, our daughter is still alive in this world. She placed her hand over her heart and her eyes trembled and felt a foreign sense of warmth. The millions of years of piled-up hatred and resentment in her heart and soul suddenly disappeared. They had completely disappeared, and even she herself could not find a single trace of them. The hatred that I had once thought was engraved into my bones, the hatred that I thought would never dull even until the day I die, actually turned out to be so utterly small and petty. Everything has been destroyed except for our planet, our daughter, so what do I have to resent? What do I have to hate? Yuan-Chi leapt out of Cloud's end cliff and landed on the soil at the edge of the cliff. After that, he gasped for air several times before lifting a hand to wipe the cold sweat from his forehead. What is to come will finally come. Her own daughter had become someone else's contracted sword. Any parent would have gone mad. What's more, Hong'er was the daughter of the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor and the heretic god. Ahhhhhhhhhhh. When Yuan-Chi thought about Jia Yuan's expression when she muttered the word, master, he had trembled violently. He had been too rash, too rash. It had been such a rash move. I should have made better preparations to cushion the blow or tried to first think of a method to remove the contract. Now things don't look good at all. The wave of good feelings might very well turn sour right now. While Yuan-Chi was feeling apprehensive, a red light flashed before his eyes as Hong'er arrived by his side with a whoosh. Her red eyes were wide open and she was staring at him angrily. Yuan-Chi, who was about to take a seat, suddenly sprang up like he had sat on a spring. He stood up immediately and he was about to open his mouth to say something. Hong'er angrily beat him to it. Master, why did you abandon Hong'er just now and run off by yourself? Yuan-Chi really did not know how to answer that question, so he replied somewhat evasively. That big sister just now, oh no, that auntie, didn't you feel very close to her? You could have played a little while longer with her. Excuses. Hong'er became even angrier. Next time you can't leave me behind and just run off suddenly. That really didn't feel good, do you understand? If you do that again, I will. Even after she had thought about it for a while, she still could not think of any methods to threaten him. Instead, she stomped her foot with a lot of force and said huffily, I'm going to ignore you until the next time I get to eat something. HMPH. I'm going to sleep. Without waiting for Yuan-Chi to reply, she had already turned into a vermilion sword ray and returned to Yuan-Chi's body, leaving him standing there with a stunned expression. What was happening right now? Just as Yuan-Chi managed to come to his senses, the world in front of him turned dark as Jia Yuan's voice rang out. She stood right in front of Yuan-Chi and stared directly at him, her pupils gleaming with a gloomy black light. Senior, Yuan-Chi cowered instinctively and braced himself. She did not see Hong'er, who had obviously returned to Yuan-Chi. A deep disappointment flashed across Jia Yuan's face as she coldly replied, You actually used Soul Star relegation to hold my daughter hostage. Ah, Yuan-Chi was stunned. Soul Star relegation. What's that? Yuan-Chi's naturally surprised and blank expression could not be faked. This caused Jia Yuan's eyebrows to twitch as she said, You don't know. Yuan-Chi shook his head. HMPH, Jia Yuan coldly explained. Soul Star relegation is a type of skill that uses the power of a star god to seize the life and soul of others. It can only be used once in each star god's lifetime, and if it succeeds, the one who the skill is used on will forever be attached to the other person. From then on, they will live and die together. It is a kind of extremely cruel contract. It is incomparably tyrannical and can be used on any living being, and even a true god will not be able to break this contract. Yuan-Chi stood there, staring blankly into space. When he had collected Hong'er in the primordial profound arc back then, he had followed Jasmine's instructions to complete the master-slave contract. He thought it was rather strange back then, as he only knew that these kind of contracts could be used for profound beasts. Even though Hong'er was a strange type of species, she should not be a profound beast, right? And then it succeeded just like that. Hong'er had never been bothered by the contract, and neither did she ever have thoughts of leaving him. She was extremely comfortable eating his stuff and sleeping every day, and even if he tried to chase her way, he probably would not be able to do so. In fact, it felt as if there would not be a difference even without the contract. Instead, there was the addition of a very strange restriction. That restriction was that he could not even undo the contract despite being the master. Just like when they were in the star god realm, and he wanted to undo the contract before he died so that Hong'er could leave. But he could not do so, and she had no choice but to live and die along with him. This was a strange and overbearing kind of contract. As he recalled those scenes from the past, Jia Yuan's words and the many strange aspects of this contract caused Yuan-Chi's heart to lurch fiercely. Could it be that back then, Jasmine had? As she observed Yuan-Chi's continuously changing expression, Jia Yuan's eyebrows sank as she said, HMPH, it seems like you remembered something. Only the star gods can use the soul star relegation technique, so there is no way that you don't remember who it was that did this, the mortal who has inherited the power of the star gods. Yuan-Chi definitely would not tell her about Jasmine. But since it merely came from a mortal who has inherited the star god divine power, then it should be all too easy to break this contract. Jia Yuan's words were especially firm and hard. But following that, she said something that left Yuan Qi very surprised, though from the looks of it, there is no need for that. Yuan Qi momentarily doubted his own sense of hearing as he said, "Senior, what do you mean?" Jia Yuan looked at him with complicated emotions in her eyes. "From the looks of it, you have indeed treated Honger pretty well. Otherwise, she wouldn't be quite so attached to you. Yuan Qi, Yuer is also very fond of you. Her reluctance to part from you lingered for a very long time after you had left." Jia Yuan sighed gently. "It looks like you came here to visit her often." Yuan Qi felt a weight being lifted off his heart when he heard Jia Yuan's tone, and he warmly replied, "Honger is my most treasured companion. It's natural for me to be good to her. Yuer saved my life back then. It's only right for me to take care of her." Her eyes turned to stare at the deep and dark abyss at their feet as they went through a series of subtle changes. After that, she suddenly said in a soft voice, "All of these things are things that I owe you." Yuan Qi's eyes widened as he swiftly waved his hands. "Senior, this junior has received the heretic god's great favor, all these are. If I say I owe you, it means I owe you." Jia Yuan's tone abruptly turned cold and hard before it suddenly changed again as she said, "Yuan Qi, say, should I merge their souls together again?" Yuan Qi shook his head without even considering it. "Senior, even though your daughter was separated into two people, Honger and Yuer, her memories and her past disappeared the moment she was separated. And as for the current Honger and Yuer, Honger is already a complete existence who loves and enjoys her current life. Even though Yuer is merely an incomplete spirit, she has developed her own personality and memories over the years, even if they may be unpleasant memories." Jia Yuan. "So, however Honger or Yuer's current state is, they are both entirely different and independent existences. If they were to merge, the completed daughter would also mean obliterating Honger and Yuer, and they would disappear forever. Thus, I don't agree, and I think that Honger and Yuer definitely won't be willing to do so either." Jia Yuan's tattered robe swayed as a gust of mountain wind blew past them. She looked into the distance and replied in a low voice, "You're right. I'll treat this as compensation from the heavens to let me have another daughter." Yuan's words still carried coldness. Yuan Qi could sense that her attitude towards him was slightly different than before. Though she had the ability to undo the contract between him and Honger, she chose not to do so. From her words, it seemed like she had a way to merge Honger and Yuer's souls, but she still asked for his opinion and even listened to it. All of this was not because he had inherited the strength of the heretic god. Especially that phrase, "I owe this to you." It was said in an extremely firm and unyielding manner. After all, even if there was a possibility that Yuan Qi had lied to her, Honger and Yuer's behavior proved otherwise. To Yuan Qi, this was unquestionably an extremely good change. He thought about it for a moment before saying in a low voice, "Senior Devil Emperor, this junior did not lie to you. Even though this world is different from before, it is still a world you belong to. The home that belongs to you and the heretic god still remains. Your daughter is also alive and well, so when your clan members return, there is no need to speak of this matter anymore." Yuan Qi was cut off by Jia Yuan before he could finish his sentence, her expression clearly turning colder. A small chill ran through Yuan Qi's heart. It seemed like it would be hard to convince Jia Yuan to have a change of heart. Jia Yuan obviously did not want to discuss this matter with Yuan Qi, and she suddenly said, "From the state of your profound veins, it seems that your core divine power is not complete yet. How many elemental seeds do you have now?" Yuan Qi replied, "Senior is correct. This junior currently has 4 elemental seeds in total: fire, water, lightning, and darkness." "Darkness!" Jia Yuan's gaze grew strange and her voice deepened by several degrees. "No wonder you could remain calm and collected in that dark world. Why did he leave this seed behind? Was he not willing?" She absent-mindedly spoke the last bit to herself. Her words were very soft and could not be heard clearly. "As this junior mentioned just now, Yuer saved my life back then," Yuan Qi said. "She used the darkness seed to save my life. What this junior can surmise is that the heretic god could finally come to this place to visit Yuer after all the gods and devils had been destroyed. He left Yuer the darkness seed and killed himself to form a drop of indestructible blood. Or perhaps he did this in order to guide the person who inherited his power and his will to find Yuer." After he finished, Jia Yuan spoke slowly. "Back then, only I knew that he possessed darkness profound energy. If the world were to find out about it, even if he was a creation god, Even if he had previously sacrificed so much for the god race, they would still have expelled him and treated him as an enemy. Thus, even though he possessed the extremely powerful darkness profound energy, he never used it even once. "Are you also like that?" Her gaze tilted towards Yuan-Chi. Yuan-Chi nodded, "Yes. With your current strength, how long can you open the Hell Monarch Gate for?" Jia Yuan suddenly posed another question. "About 15 breaths," Yuan-Chi replied honestly. Jia Yuan was slightly surprised. "It's extremely rare for you to able to open the Hell Monarch Gate for so long given your current profound cultivation. Other than your profound veins and soul, your body must surely be extraordinary. However, the Hell Monarch Gate is the limit that a mortal can handle, and is most likely the limit that you will be able to reach in your lifetime. Unless you are able to break through the limits of your mortality and the laws of this current world one day and step into the domain of the gods." Yuan-Chi replied. "Senior is unexpectedly familiar with the heretic god arts." "Heretic god arts?" This name caused Jia Yuan to frown slightly before she let out a cold snort. Its original name was the Devil God Forbidden Tome. "Devil God Forbidden Tome?" Yuan-Chi's brows twitched violently. Heretic God Arts was clearly named by the creation god of the elements who called himself the heretic god when he shunned the world out of despair. He was victorious when he battled against the strongest creation god, Mo-E. This showed that he had already managed to cultivate the heretic god arts at that time, but its actual name was really the Devil God Forbidden Tome, a name that would be considered a taboo regardless of the era. When we consummated our marriage back then, we had to plan for our future. Faced with the unbending rules of two races who had irreconcilable differences, the best and perhaps the only method left to us was to change the rules. In order to change the rules, one had to possess a strength that ruled above all things. The Devil God Forbidden Tome was born from this reason. Jia Yuan's account caused Yuan-Chi to be suddenly reminded of what Xia Qingyue said to him. "Do you know why I could still retain my surname, Xia, despite being the Moon God Emperor? It is because in the Moon God realm, I am the one who arbitrates the laws, not the one who follows them. Together, we created the Forbidden Strength, Devil God Forbidden Tome, by combining his elemental divine powers and my eternal calamity of darkness. That was the very first time that our two races had truly combined our strengths, and this gave rise to a mighty power that far exceeded our expectations." Yuan-Chi had just found out today that the heretic god arts did not originate from the strength of the heretic god alone. Instead, it was a creation of both the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor and the heretic god, the forbidden profound art that combined the powers of a creation god and a devil emperor. When the Devil God Forbidden Tome was cultivated, it was as if a raging devil was birthed in one's profound veins. The greater the strength, the harder it was to master it. In the end, together we placed 7 seals in his profound veins so that he could control and master that power. And these 7 seals are the gates in your profound veins, and your profound energy will go berserk on different levels when these 7 seals are opened. "I see." Yuan-Chi unconsciously placed his palm on his profound veins, great waves fluctuating in his heart. The heretic god was originally the creation god of elements. His life-bound strength should be elemental divine power. The heretic god arts, which caused one's profound strength to go berserk, were actually a forbidden divine power that he had created later. "Senior, perhaps it's because of the nature of my strength. I was never able to cultivate it even though the Devil God Forbidden Tome was created by the two of us," Jia Yuan said. "I thought that no one else other than him would be able to cultivate it. However, we never did manage to wait for the day that we could change the rules." Following her last sentence, a cold sorrow that she had been holding back with all her might slowly permeated into the depths of Yuan-Chi's soul. At this moment, she suddenly stretched out her hand and pointed it at Yuan-Chi's left shoulder. A ball of black light flickered into life on his shoulder, and the shape of a darkness profound formation suddenly appeared and disappeared in the next instant. Jia Yuan retracted her finger as Yuan-Chi looked at his shoulder and asked, "What's that?" "I sealed a sound transmission profound formation into your body. When the profound formation is activated by your thoughts, you will be able to send me a sound transmission from any location, and I will appear within a few seconds," Jia Yuan explained. But, without waiting for Yuan-Chi to express his gratitude, her voice turned suddenly cold as she glared pointedly at him. "This is limited to when your life is in danger, or when you require long-range teleportation. Even though the power of the World Piercer is nearly exhausted, teleporting through this primal chaos dimension is still something that can be easily done. Consider this repayment for taking care of my daughter. Xia Yuan would never owe anyone a favor, let alone a mortal. She continued, as for why I am willing to save your life, it is not because you possess his strength, but because Honger's life is linked to yours, and I would never allow her to die along with you. Yes, this junior understands. Yuan Qi replied thankfully. You should also understand something else. Xia Yuan's tone became even colder, her pitch-black pupils piercing into the depths of Yuan Qi's heart. Besides using the power world piercer and getting you out of life-threatening situations, you should not expect to ever borrow my power. Yuan Qi, don't expect me to help you or the people around you when you're stuck in a difficult situation. Neither should you expect me to eradicate your enemies, no matter how great the feud is. You can only rely on yourself. He was the strongest and proudest god in the entire god race. I refuse to allow you, the person who has inherited his strength, to become a useless person who relies on the might of others. Understand? Xia Yuan was certainly not joking. Especially that phrase, he was the strongest and proudest god in the entire god race. Every word was filled with a deep sense of pride that could not be desecrated. Yes, this junior understands. Yuan Qi solemnly replied. I hope that you truly understand. Xia Yuan turned and said, Honger likes what she has currently. With you as her companion, I can rest assured. But I will stay here and accompany her for this period of time. You may go. Yes, Yuan Qi agreed. He hesitated for a few moments, but in the end, he did not bring up the subject of the returning devil gods again. After that, he flew off in the direction of the profound sky continent. Xia Yuan did not return to Yuer immediately. She stood at the edge of Cloud End's cliff as she surveyed this small and tiny world. Without Yuan Qi present, she finally did not need to forcefully suppress her feelings anymore. Nixuan, I'm back, I'm really back. Where are you? Boom, 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 boom. The far-off space suddenly started to fluctuate as she lost control over her emotions and aura. The thunderous roars of profound beasts started filling the skies after that. An unnerving aura started to spread swiftly over the huge continent. Xia Yuan lifted her eyes, and with a turn of her body, she had already traveled hundreds of kilometers. This was a city that belonged to the human beings, and even though it definitely was not considered a small city on this continent, almost half of it had been reduced to ruins. Most of the people were currently repairing buildings that had been destroyed. Everyone's faces were filled with fatigue and hope. Xia Yuan sensed an aura that made her uncomfortable the very first moment she had arrived. Light, profound energy. Perhaps it was because of her arrival that this uncomfortable aura disappeared without a trace. At this moment, the land and air started to tremble simultaneously. In the distance, a dense wave of profound beasts surged forward like water bursting from a dam. World-shaking roars accompanied them as they launched themselves towards the already damaged city. Roars of shock and terror, and wails of despair instantly filled every corner of the city. Countless people started to flee as many profound practitioners summoned profound energy and rushed toward the wave of profound beasts. Wails of misery were mixed in with the sounds of the bitter struggle, which started to fill this land struck with sudden disaster. Every single profound beast had become extremely violent. It was as if they had gone completely insane. The profound practitioners were afraid at first, but soon after, they started to emit a malicious aura that grew heavier and heavier, and their shouts gradually started to resemble that of wild beasts. The battle between humans and profound beasts became fiercer and more terrible with every passing breath. The city walls crumbled to pieces as more and more profound beasts that have gone mad rushed into the city, and all hope had been lost. Mother, mother! A girl's heartrending scream pierced into Xia Yuan's ears like an iron needle. The girl fell down in a corner of the city, and her mother hurriedly turned back to use her body to shield the frail girl, while more than 10 profound beasts launched themselves at the pair as they bared their ferocious blood-stained teeth. Xia Yuan pointed her finger forward, and the horde of profound beasts instantly scattered and vanished into thin air. Crack! A thunderclap that came out of nowhere resounded in the air. Soon after, the temperature of the originally scorching weather started dropping at an unnatural speed. A chilly wind started blowing, bringing a flurry of snow with it. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a blizzard that covered the entire sky. The natural order has collapsed. These words flashed in Xia Yuan's mind as she closed her eyes and looked toward the heavens, a pained struggle flashing across her bruised and scarred countenance. The chaos created by the profound beasts on the azure cloud continent had been calmed by Yuan Qi's light, profound energy. But because of Jia Yuan's arrival, it had once again erupted, and it had grown more violent than ever before. Continent, the first thing he did was to search for Yuan Wuxin's aura before he flew straight towards it. Blue Wind Nation, snow region of extreme ice, frozen cloud immortal palace. Yuan Wuxin's eyes were closed as she sat in the snow, the profound energy radiating from her body barely discernible. It was clear that she was going through some sort of mental cultivation. In a place not too far away from her, Chu Yuechen and Chu Yueli were standing in the snow as they whispered to one another. As this pair of sisters stood together, they brightened the color of this patch of snow while also dimming the beauty of the snow region itself. Yuan Qi descended from the sky as he softly landed in front of Yuan Wuxin. Yuan Wuxin immediately sensed his presence, and her eyes popped open. It seemed as if thousands of stars had sprung to life in her eyes as she let out a squeal of surprised delight. "Daddy!" When she let out that cry, she had already leapt to her feet excitedly and hurled herself into Yuan Qi's arms as extremely delighted laughter escaped her lips. Even though Yuan Qi had only left for 20-odd days, ever since they had reunited, this was the first time he had been away from Yuan Wuxin for so long. Chu Yuechen and Chu Yueli turned around at the same time. "Palace Master," Chu Yueli said in a pleasantly surprised manner. A very small smile appeared on Chu Yuechen's face. As she looked at Yuan Qi, she said, "You're back so fast. So it looks like everything went just about according to plan." "Yes, you could say that," Yuan Qi said as he nodded his head. After that, he reached out to rub Yuan Wuxin's face. "Did Zinner miss Daddy?" "Yes, yes." Yuan Wuxin nodded her head vigorously before suddenly asking, "Daddy, did you come back alone?" "Of course I did." "You really didn't bring back any more beautiful ants," Yuan Wuxin said with an earnest expression on her face. Yuan Qi turned to look at Chu Yuechen, his expression bitter. "Yuechen, what sort of strange things did you teach her this time?" Chu Yuechen gave a half-hearted smile as she said, "You do not conduct yourself properly as a father. Zinner sees all of these things, so do you think we needed to teach her anything?" Yuan Qi, "Oh, oh, I was just joking," Yuan Wuxin said cheerily as she stretched out her little hand. "Daddy, where's my present?" "Present?" Yuan Qi was instantly stunned. "Yeah, that's right. Before Daddy left, you said that you would definitely bring me back an awesome present when you returned." As she looked at Yuan Qi's expression, Yuan Wuxin started to pout. "Could it be that Daddy forgot about it?" "Ah, this." Yuan Qi had indeed promised Yuan Wuxin that he would bring her back a present from the God realm before he had left. But he had suddenly been brought back by Jia Yuan today, and he had not made any preparations whatsoever. So he could only brazenly ask, "Isn't Daddy's return already the best present?" Immediately, Yuan Wuxin's pout grew even deeper. "Daddy is a liar, and you even chose to be shameless. To think that I even used so much effort to prepare a present for Daddy." As she said those words, she already looked like she was about to break out into tears. Yuan Qi felt a shock run through his mind, and his eyes lit up as he said, "What present? HMPH, I don't want to tell a daddy who doesn't keep his word." Yuan Wuxin turned her face away in a fit of pique. Okay, the next time I come back, I'll make it up to you. How about I get you 2 presents to make up for it, okay?" Yuan Qi hurriedly said. "Not okay." Chu Yuechen walked over and looked at the father and daughter who were stuck together as she said, "Yuan Qi, while Zinner was waiting for you to come back, she has indeed been preparing a very special present for you. In order to prepare this present, she traveled across most of the profound sky continent and the illusory demon realm." Yuan Qi, "However, you have come back a little too fast, so the present isn't done yet. But I guarantee that you will enjoy it. So, for the sake of Zinner's feelings, you need to properly make it up to her." Upon hearing those words, warm feelings and guilt immediately bubbled up in Yuan Qi's heart. He said, "Zinner, it was Daddy's mistake this time. I didn't keep my word. So the next time I will definitely make up to you twice as much, many times as much, okay?" Yuan Wuxin, who had originally looked really unhappy, started laughing at this moment instead. "Actually, the present isn't really important at all. It's fine as long as Daddy comes back safe and sound." She hugged her father's neck tightly, her delicate head quietly resting on his shoulder. When Yuan Qi had returned, Kang Yue, the little demon empress, Feng Zuer, Su Linger, and the rest of them had quickly sensed his aura. He did not hide anything from them, and he plainly told them everything that had happened in the easternmost part of the primal chaos, including the current situation, a situation that was currently being enshrouded by a dark shadow. "Does this mean that you really became the Messiah?" the little demon empress said in a calm voice. "If you really want to force the issue, you could indeed say that," Yuan replied. But actually, I feel that even if I wasn't around, the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor would have merely killed a few of the power inheritors who got their powers from the god clans under Mo-E in order to vent her hatred. She would not have implicated anyone else, and it is even less likely that she'd do anything to destroy the universe. That's because her nature isn't the least bit evil, and it has not been warped either. But those devil gods that are about to follow after her? Yuan-Chi exhaled heavily, his expression grave and solemn. Big brother Yuan-Chi, you definitely won't give up just like that, right? Sulinger said in a soft voice. Amen. Yuan-Chi nodded his head and replied, I will definitely do my best to advise the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor before those devil gods return. Only the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor can restrain those devil gods, and only I can advise her. However, don't you worry, even if the result isn't as we wished, all of you will definitely be okay. This is something that the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor has personally promised. The great calamity that the primal chaos faced had never been the returning Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor herself. Rather, it was the devil gods that were returning after her. Nearly 100 devil gods. The Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor had said herself that the nature of every single one of them had been completely warped by the resentment, pain, hatred, and death they had experienced over the last few million years. As a result, they had truly become complete and utter devils. The return of any single one of them would be an enormous calamity for the current primal chaos, let alone the return of 100 of them at the same time. Furthermore, they were all the kinsmen of the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, and she had personally witnessed everything that they had endured over all of those years. They had been banished because of the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, and as a result, she felt an extremely deep guilt towards the kinsmen who had passed away and the ones who had managed to survive to this day. Thus, trying to get the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor to willingly control the returning devil gods was truly something that was harder than scaling the heavens. Compared to him, it would naturally be far easier for the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor's daughter to succeed at that task. But it was a pity that Yuan could not speak, and as for Hunger, it would be better to forget about that notion. Does this mean that you will be going to the god realm quite frequently during this period of time? The little demon empress asked. Amen. Yuan-Chi nodded his head as he said, However, because of the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, the god realm currently regards me as their messiah, so I will no longer be in the sort of danger I used to be in, and all of you don't need to worry about me any longer. At this time, Feng Zuer's aura stirred, and after that her expression changed a little. Yuan-Chi immediately sensed the change and asked, Zuer, what happened? Feng Zuer replied in a rather anxious manner, A profound beast rampage has suddenly erupted at the borders of Divine Phoenix City, and this time, it seems to be a very violent one indeed. No need to worry, I'll immediately go and take a look. After Yuan-Chi said that, he swiftly got to his feet and sped straight toward Divine Phoenix City. Upon arriving at Divine Phoenix City, the scene below gave Yuan-Chi a big shock. Violent auras and the roars of profound beasts blanketed the heavens and the earth. At this moment, the light profound energy that he had suffused this place with originally had completely vanished without a trace. The space in the area had started to tremble slightly, and even the fire elementals in the air were in complete chaos, as if they had gone insane. This was, Yuan-Chi was secretly shocked, but there was no time for him to think about this any further. He spread his arms out wide, swiftly releasing light profound energy before scattering it downward. After he thought about it for a moment, he expanded his radius to include the entire Divine Phoenix Nation. The gloomy skies immediately brightened by a few degrees as the aura of disaster gradually weakened under the influence of the light profound energy. The profound beast tide grew calm as the frenzied profound beasts began to slowly retreat in a daze. It was as if they had woken up from a nightmare. But Yuan-Chi's knitted brows did not relax after that. He could clearly sense that the speed at which these profound beasts were recovering their senses under the influence of light profound energy was several times slower than usual. And he could also sense that the light profound energy that he was releasing was dissipating at a much faster rate than usual as well. He immediately thought of the cause, and a wave of powerlessness washed over him after that. He did not sense that at some indeterminate point of time, a pitch-black figure had appeared not too far behind him, and they were currently quietly gazing at the sacred, profound light radiating from his body. This purification lasted for a very long time, and when the light, profound energy finally dissipated from his body, he let out a small breath. But after that, he faintly sensed something, causing him to swivel around. With a single glance, he saw Jia Yuan standing there silently. That pair of pitch-black eyes was fixed on him, and it seemed as if there was actually a gloomy light glinting in those pupils. "Senior, why are you here?" Yuan-Chi hurriedly stepped forward and asked. How come you have light profound energy?" Jia Yuan asked in a deep voice. There was something very wrong with Jia Yuan's tone. Upon recalling that she would definitely be very repulsed and disgusted by light profound energy as she was a devil emperor, Yuan-Chi's heart lurched a little. However, he still answered honestly. "This junior obtained light profound energy 4 years ago due to the machinations of fate. If senior is not happy about this junior will definitely not use it in front of senior and Yuan in the future." Jia Yuan fixed him with a stare. "Are you telling me that you lied to me?" Yuan-Chi was momentarily stunned, and he replied in a shocked voice. "How would this junior dare?" "HMPH. I see your mouth is still stubborn." Sullen anger appeared on Jia Yuan's face as she said, "Didn't you say that you already received the darkness seed? If you have the darkness seed, that naturally means that you possess darkness profound energy. But what you just displayed was clearly light profound energy, Yuan-Chi. It means that you didn't find the darkness seed. Why did you lie to me about this?" Jia Yuan asked in a deep voice. Yuan-Chi could clearly sense Jia Yuan's rage, but his entire person was filled with doubt and suspicion as he replied, "This junior does not understand what you mean by that. This junior did indeed find the darkness seed. I don't know what this has to do with the light profound energy that this junior possesses." "You still dare to be stubborn?" Jia Yuan thundered as her brows sank even deeper. "Very good. Since you said that you found the darkness seed, then release some darkness profound energy for me to see." Jia Yuan's words carried with them some mockery and disappointment, and it was clear that she absolutely believed that Yuan-Chi was telling a lie. Yuan-Chi's heart grew even more puzzled and doubtful. He had not too long ago just sworn to Mu Xuanian that he would definitely not use darkness profound energy in any situation. He wanted to explain himself, but upon coming into contact with Jia Yuan's eyes, his heart immediately tightened. No, this concerned the safety of the current universe, so he just could not leave a bad impression on Jia Yuan. But why is she suddenly so convinced that I did not possess any darkness profound energy? After he hesitated for a brief moment, In-Chi swept the area with his spiritual perception. After that, he raised a hand, and a black light started flashing above his palm before forming a pitch-black cyclone. A thread of darkness profound energy suddenly erupted, causing the atmosphere around them to immediately become dark and oppressive. The moment that thread of darkness profound energy appeared in Yuan-Chi's hand, he suddenly discovered that Jia Yuan's body actually shook heavily and shockingly enough. A look of utter astonishment had flashed in her eyes for an instant. Jia Yuan's reaction gave Yuan-Chi a fright, but it was also at this moment that Jia Yuan's gaze moved from his hand to his face. Her pitch-black eyes violently shook as she said, "You..." Yuan-Chi closed his fist and withdrew the darkness profound energy. After that, he asked with a frown, "That was this junior's darkness profound energy, so why is senior so shocked?" Jia Yuan's pupils shrank slightly as she stared at Yuan-Chi. It was only after several breaths had passed that she finally spoke in a low voice. "Release light profound energy for me to see again." "Okay," Yuan-Chi gave an affirmative reply. With a single thought, sacred profound light was already shining from his hand, as it instantly dispelled the gloomy cold that had been wrought by the darkness profound energy. "You!" Jia Yuan fixed Yuan-Chi with another stare. There was a shock in her eyes that Yuan-Chi was unable to fathom as she said, "Darkness profound energy and light profound energy coexisting in a person's body. How could such a thing happen? You, what exactly are you?" Jia Yuan's words left Yuan-Chi completely mystified. He frowned and said, "Being able to cultivate many different elemental powers isn't something rare even in the current world, so why is senior? This is light and darkness. How can you even compare them to ordinary things? The two of them are direct opposites, and it's fundamentally impossible for them to coexist in a person's body," Jia Yuan said in a deep voice. "However, fire and water also suppress one another, and even though there are very few people who cultivate fire and water, and most people aren't willing to do so either, it isn't something that is impossible to do. HMPH. Fire and water mutually suppress and repels each other, but light and darkness are two existences that are complete opposites. How can they be discussed in the same sentence?" Jia Yuan slowly shook her head as her eyes locked onto Yuan-Chi. "How could such a thing happen? This shouldn't happen, this shouldn't be possible." "This..." Yuan-Chi was stunned by her reaction. His darkness profound energy had been birthed by the heretic god seed, and it existed in an extremely natural state. He had obtained his light profound energy from Xianxia, and he had obtained it in an exceptionally easy and natural manner as well. He had never felt any sort of discomfort or feelings of unnaturalness when using them before. He thought about it for a moment before saying, Senior heretic god was initially the creation god of the elements, so for his profound veins to able to control all the elements is something that should be natural. Xia Yuan's voice and gaze grew equally heavy as she said in a low and measured voice. He could not cultivate light profound energy. Furthermore, because he possessed darkness profound energy, he was even somewhat afraid of light profound energy. Yuan Qi. It wasn't only limited to him. Any god, any devil, any race I knew of, any living creature. Absolutely none of them were able to cultivate both light and darkness profound energy together. Because light and darkness were two diametrically opposed existences, just like life and death. So how can things which are antithetical to one another be able to coexist together? Yuan Qi raised his hands in astonishment. Light profound energy shone from his left hand, as his right hand flashed with dark profound light. Light and darkness appeared on Yuan Qi's body as it appeared in Xia Yuan's vision at the same time. The two different lights shone quietly without interfering with one another, as they verily went against every word that Xia Yuan had just spoken. Xia Yuan was already surprised that Yuan Qi had cultivated the profound strength of both light and darkness. But now, he was able to release both light and darkness profound energy simultaneously with just a casual wave of his hands. Not only could he cultivate them together, but he could also release them simultaneously. Xia Yuan's pupils violently throbbed for a short moment. It was a pity that Yuan Qi himself was so perplexed and puzzled that he did not manage to see her reaction. He had never felt like there was anything wrong with having light and darkness profound energy in his body at the same time. Even Mu Xunian, who knew of this fact, did not think that there was anything wrong. After all, the profound veins of the creation god of the elements should naturally possess the most complete and ultimate mastery over the elements. But this had totally ripped apart the knowledge of a primordial devil emperor. This had caused a primordial devil emperor to turn pale from the shock. When she saw Yuan Qi releasing both light and darkness, and with just a casual wave of his hands at that, Xia Yuan was indescribably shocked, and her heart churned like a stormy sea. As the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, she was currently viewing Yuan Qi as if she were looking at an incomprehensible monster. What in the world was happening? Could it be that a strange change occurred after a mortal had inherited his strength? No, that's not right. No matter what sort of strange changes took place, it would be impossible to break the most fundamental laws. Light and darkness are natural opposites and cannot coexist. This is the most basic of basics. It was absolutely impossible to break this law of creation, and no one had ever done it before. So how could he hold on breaking the laws of creation? In these few short instants, the look in Xia Yuan's eyes changed more than 10 times consecutively. Even during the primordial era, she had rarely ever been so shocked. The more shocked Xia Yuan became, the more confused Yuan Qi grew. Her reactions did not seem fake. And as the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, she would never intentionally give such a reaction just to tease him. He recalled how he had obtained darkness profound energy and light profound energy. The former was when Yuan had given him the darkness seed, and he was able to control it flawlessly after that. The latter had been obtained naturally after sleeping with Xianxia, and after he had casually practiced using it a few times, he was able to control it with familiarity and ease. Furthermore, there was not even a single instant of these elements repulsing each other or conflicting inside his body. The heretic god was a little afraid of light profound energy. But even when he had possessed darkness profound energy, he felt neither afraid nor uncomfortable when he was faced with Xia's light profound energy. "Who are your parents?" Xia Yuan suddenly asked in a deep voice. Yuan Qi immediately replied, "This junior's parents are all regular human beings. You don't need to say anything else." Without listening to Yuan Qi's reply, Xia Yuan stretched out a hand to grab him. "This thing inside you is not normal. I must personally witness it." Since Xia Yuan had said such a thing, Yuan Qi naturally could not voice even the slightest objection. He could only nod his head and say, "Okay." In a flash, he brought Xia Yuan to the illusory demon realm's demon imperial city. The Yuan families Yuan Qinghang and Mu Yuru had finished their busy tasks and were currently sitting at the same stone table leisurely sipping tea. The relationship between the Yuan family and the illusory demon realm was very different from what it had been back in the day. There were barely any troubling matters, and they seemed to be doing better with each passing day. Yuan silently looked at both of them before she swept her spiritual perception over everyone in the Yuan family. After that, she followed Yuan-Chi to his maternal grandfather's home. Yet she did not discover anything strange. Be it his father, mother, clan members, maternal grandfather, uncle, in Yuan's eyes, they were ordinary mortal beings. Though their strength was considered the best on this planet, they were all ordinary lowly mortals to Yuan. Yuan was extremely disappointed, and she became even more puzzled. Did you grow up in this city? No, I didn't. Yuan-Chi shook his head and explained his past in simple terms. Although I am the son of the Yuan family, I was born and raised in the profound Sky Continent. I only returned to my ancestral hometown when I was 20 years old. Yuan's gaze froze. Could it have been due to artificial reasons? She suddenly said, "Bring me to the place where you grew up." It was obvious that Yuan regarded this matter with exceptional importance. Yuan-Chi then brought her to where Floating Cloud City was located. He himself would like to know what sort of abnormality his body had that could provoke such a reaction from Yuan. Upon arriving at Floating Cloud City, Yuan's brows furrowed for a moment. The level of aura in this place was incomparably thin and inferior, and even on this small planet, it would be hard to find a place that was of a lower level than this. As her spiritual perception swept the area, she was not surprised to find that the profound cultivation of the people here was so low that it seemed pitiful. Even the profound beasts were all low-level profound beasts. You grew up here? Yuan was even more disappointed. Yes. Yuan-Chi nodded his head and replied, "This place is called Floating Cloud City. I grew up in this place until I was 16, never leaving this place once throughout those years. I have also often come back here over the last few years." Yuan frowned. She used her spiritual perception to sweep the area again and again before she suddenly asked, "Who is the one you spent the most time with?" The answer was without a doubt Xiao Lingxi. They had both grown up under the care of Xiao Lai and had never left each other's sides before he turned 16. This was especially true before he turned 10 years old, as they had even slept on the same bed and were stuck to each other day and night. Yuan's overly cautious behavior caused Yuan-Chi to hesitate momentarily before he finally answered honestly. "It's Lingxi. She was my little aunt, and she is younger than me by a year. She's the person who I grew up together with." Following Yuan-Chi's guidance, Yuan locked onto Xiao Lingxi's figure, and soon after, a disappointed expression once again appeared on her face. This was a lady who was extremely pure and quiet, and though she had profound strength aura of someone who had just entered the divine way, Yuan could tell with a single glance that her cultivation was expedited by an external force. Though her foundation was extremely unstable, she did not seem to mind, nor did she try to stabilize it. It was clear that she did not have any interest in pursuing the divine way. A human girl who could not be more innocent and pure. It can't be helped. Yuan finally gave up and muttered to herself, "Perhaps the evolution of the primal chaos over all of these years has caused the laws to change as well." Even Yuan-Chi did not believe the words that she had just said, let alone Yuan herself. After the destruction of both the god and devil races, the aura and laws of the primal chaos had always been devolving and becoming more and more inferior. So how could there be a change in laws that even a devil emperor did not know of? Yuan turned and immediately disappeared from Yuan-Chi's sight, leaving her devilish voice floating in his ears. "I will take control of the chaos that has broken out in both man and beast, along with the breakdown of order on this planet. You don't have to manage it anymore." "Master," Healing's voice rang out in his heart, "the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor seems so strange. It's as if she really has been shocked by Master. Perhaps she thinks that I'm even more strange." Yuan-Chi rubbed his nose as a deep doubt was planted in his heart. As he put his thoughts aside, Yuan-Chi looked at Xiao Lingxi from above and smirked. He descended from the sky and pounced on her, causing her to let out a delicate scream as they fell to the ground. After that, he held her tightly while they rolled in a flower bed. News of the Devil Emperor's return had not yet been extensively spread. Nor did anyone dare to recklessly spread it, but the news had already been covertly passed to the ones who needed to know. Even those who were still in the dark could sense that the atmosphere of the God realm had changed slightly. This was especially so in the sects of the realm kings of all the greater star realms. The sect disciples had all realized that the three words, Snow Song Realm, had been mentioned with much greater frequency than before. And the ones who were the most puzzled were the people of the Snow Song realm themselves. Since half a month ago, there would be many profound warships arriving at the Snow Song realm every day. Each of these profound warships were famous and well-known, and they each belonged to an Upper Star Realm king's sect. In the past, one might not even see a profound warship of this level in a few thousand years. But over the last few days, they had arrived in bunches. And every single one of the people who walked out of these profound warships were higher realm kings who could make the entire Snow Song realm kneel for them in welcome. But when they arrived, each of them were warm and respectful and even a little cautious. All of their profound warships were even fully packed with expensive gifts. It was as if they were visiting an exalted king realm. Again and again, one wave after the other, the Snow Song realm, especially the ones in the Divine Ice Phoenix sect, had already been numbed from the shock, yet no one knew what was going on. Ice Phoenix Sacred Hall. There will be 37 Upper Star Realms that will be visiting tomorrow. Also, we received an extreme amount of invitation letters today, more than 1,000. Mu Bingyun gave Mu Xuanian an account. Why are there so many? Mu Xuanian said as she gave a small frown. Mu Bingyun replied, those invitation letters from before are those from the Upper Star Realms. Those received today are mostly from the Middle Star Realms. The other Middle Star Realms should not have known about the Devil Emperor's return. I think that the continuous visitations of the Upper Star Realms these few days has caused the rest of the Middle Star Realms to become bewildered. That's all. Mu Xuanian's icy brows knitted and said, you and Huanji will continue to receive the Upper Star Realms. Remember to be polite. It is fine to receive normal gifts and return one that's of the same value. But you must reject all the expensive gifts. If they ask about Yuan, tell them that he is still traveling around the primal chaos with the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, and we do not know when he will be coming back. Let Tanjai receive the Middle Star Realms and warn him repeatedly to not divulge anything that he shouldn't divulge. I understand. Mu Bingyun thought for a while and said, now that it's come to this, there are already more than 100 higher realm kings that are seriously proposing a marriage alliance. Perhaps Big Sister can consider this. All of them are daughters of reputable realm kings, all perfect in terms of figure and appearance, and they even clearly stated that they are willing to be concubines. This will bring many benefits to Yuan-Chi in the future. Reject them all and never mention this again? Mu Xuanian suddenly interjected, and her tone turned cold. All right, I will comply with Big Sister's wishes. Mu Bingyun gently replied and sighed when recalling the changes of the Snow Song realm over the last few days. The Snow Song realm was originally a peaceful and extremely cold place. It has never been so rowdy in any era before. It would not be so even if it were to be conferred as a king realm. HMPH, even if another king realm was birthed, it would only fill them with reverence and respect. But the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor is able to decide their fates with a single word or action. Yuan-Chi is the only one who can save them, but for Yuan-Chi to have a good opinion of them, they will naturally start with us from the Snow Song realm. Mu Xuanian's tone was indifferent. Even after countless Upper Star Realms tried to curry favor with her and fawn over her in the span of a single day, she did not seem to be excited or proud. It's only natural for them to do so. Mu Xuanian was right. Even hundreds or thousands of king realms could not compare to the threat brought about by the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, let alone a single king realm. During this half-month, many of those Upper Star Realms who knew the truth strived to be the first to try and curry favor with the Song Snow realm, and their reverence toward the Snow Song realm far surpassed their reverence for the king realms. Moreover, they themselves had absolutely never imagined that they, as higher Star Realm kings, would actually have such a day. Big Sister, say, do you think the returned Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor will truly become the master of the primal chaos and not bring down disaster on this world? Mu Bingyun asked. This was the matter that everyone who knew the truth was most concerned about. Mu Xuanian closed her eyes and softly said, I feel that she will. The Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor that I saw possessed unimaginable strength, but her nature is far less frightening than I had expected it would be. Given her level, even without all those years of hatred and resentment, she does not need to be concerned about the life and death of all creation. Even when she personally killed the 3 Brahma gods, she was clearly in control of herself. Otherwise, she could have wiped out everyone present with just the aftershock from her attack. After that, she spared everyone else just because of a few words from Yuan-Chi. It's been half a month and she has not yet shown herself. Both the God realm and the lower realms show no traces of any disaster created by her. I think that this calamity will no longer erupt anymore. The only difference is that there is now a true master of the primal chaos. Henceforth, all creation will have to follow the rules that she draws up. Mu Bingyun continued on. Then Yuan Qi alone, as the one who inherited the heretic god divine power, will receive favor from the new master of the primal chaos and will be able to do whatever he wants from now on. She gave a small laugh. That's not too bad. After finishing her sentence, Mu Bingyun originally thought that with Mu Xunian's nature, she would definitely disdain the idea of Yuan Qi relying on others to show off. But instead, she heard Mike Xunian faintly reply, "That's good too. At least no one will dare to covet his power or bully him anymore. Even if he were to turn arrogant and run amok, it's better than before." Mu Bingyun. Pole star for a comfortable half-month or so. Yuan Qi finally recalled that he still had some serious business to do and returned to the God realm. Xia Yuan hadn't shown herself to him even once during this time, probably because she was accompanying Yuan in the little world beneath Cloud's End Cliff. Not that Yuan Qi dared to seek her out on his own. He was also constantly reminded of the fact that almost 100 grudgeful devil gods were looming over all of them, and that he could think of no countermeasures despite this temporary peace. Right now, there was no power in the world that could stand up against a single devil god, much less 100. The only hope had always been Xia Yuan, and Xia Yuan alone. Could he really change Xia Yuan's mind before it was too late? No answers had come to Yuan Qi yet, and he himself wasn't feeling confident at all. One more thing. Profound Sky Continent and Illusory Demon Continent hadn't experienced any breakdown in laws or profound beast rampages since the arrival of the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor. Yuan Qi wasn't surprised in the least, of course. Considering the power the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor wielded, it was a very simple task to say the least. Yuan Qi returned to the God realm once more, but this time he didn't use a spatial profound stone or the vanishing moon celestial palace. Instead, he chose a method that was completely different from his previous two journeys. He flew out of the blue pole star and into space. Then he took off toward the eastern divine region with his own power. Space was infinitely vast. By the time Yuan Qi turned around to glance at blue pole star, it was already quite some distance away from him. Perhaps it was because most of the planets in the backdrop were either dark or black and crimson-colored, but blue pole star stood out as an extraordinarily beautiful and dazzling planet to him. It was like an azure-colored velour pearl and the prettiest decor of this corner of space. This was why blue pole star was called blue pole star in the first place. This was the first time he saw his own planet from space with his own eyes, however. In the past, his planet's appearance had only been privy to him in the form of records, and he never realized that it was this beautiful until today. In the past, I'd always thought that blue pole star had too many bodies of water and too little land, but now, it's so beautiful I actually feel proud of it. I'll bring Wuxin over for a look next time. Yuan Qi smiled to himself and memorized the distant image of blue pole star firmly in his mind. He also memorized the space around it and the thousands of weird-looking stars in the backdrop. When a lower realm profound practitioner had reached the divine origin realm, their bodies would become capable of living in space and space travel. They would also be able to sense the existence of a higher plane, like the God realm, with their spiritual perception, and make their way there with their own power. He vaguely remembered that this process was called the Ascension. The first time Yuan Qi had arrived in the God realm, Mu Bingyun was the one who brought him to the God realm. Moreover, he wasn't a divine way profound practitioner back then. Once he had made it back to the God realm, his ascension to godhood would finally be complete, he supposed. The blue pole star was situated not too far away to the east of the eastern divine region. At first, Yuan Qi spent some time playing around and sightseeing for a bit. After that, he flew full speed toward the Snow Song realm and reached his destination in less than 10 days. When he returned to the Snow Song realm, he immediately noticed a huge amount of powerful auras that belonged to either powerful profound practitioners or profound arcs around his sect. Tusk, I knew this would happen. Yuan Qi wasn't surprised by their presence in the slightest. He even recalled the time Jasmine had finished reforging her body and shown herself in the profound Sky Continent back then. At the time, the 4 great sacred grounds had been scared out of their wits, and the sacred ground masters had acted as meekly as Jasmine's grandchildren. This was so similar to what he had witnessed back then. Undoubtedly, Absolute power was the driving force behind all of this. As it turned out, absolute power that could easily decide one's life or death didn't care if you were a lowly mortal from the lower realms or an important person in the god realm. All were the same before it. The only difference here was that last time Jasmine was that representation of absolute power, and this time it was Jia Yuan. Yuan-Chi sighed quietly to himself. Obviously, these upper star realm bosses are trying to curry favor with me through the Snow Song realm, and through me a certain devil emperor in the end. I'm just the same as they are, hoping to intimidate others with a powerful backer. I wonder when I'll be strong enough that they'll fear me instead of the people behind me. Every person who had visited the Snow Song realm lately was a realm king, so it was only natural that they had spotted Yuan-Chi way before he had spotted them. As a result, what should have been a quiet and unimportant return had immediately been blown up into a giant uproar. The commotion hadn't just affected Snow Song realm either. The news of his return soon spread throughout the entire eastern divine region. For a time, every upper star realm close to the Snow Song realm was rife with activity. Everyone was making their way toward the Snow Song realm on profound arcs they barely used once every couple hundred years or so. Very soon, droves of top-tier profound practitioners were piling on top of the Snow Song realm like flies. Higher realm kings almost never showed themselves to the realms beneath them, so some might consider it the blessing of a lifetime to be able to catch a glimpse of them. Today, though, these higher realm kings were all gathered in the sky of the Ice Phoenix divine sect like cheap cabbages ready to sell themselves for nothing. As the guests grew both in terms of quantity and quality, even Xianxia was forced to make an appearance and receive them herself. Even the three greatest upper star realms, the Glazed Light realm, the Holy Eves realm, and the Shrouding Sky realm, had shown up in this order. Luo Shangchen had purposely brought Luo Changsheng with him, and Xia Qingyue of course came with Xu Meiyin. It wasn't long before Huo Poyan of the Flame God realm had come visiting as well. He was alone, however. In the end, even the three greatest god emperors of the eastern divine region, Brahma Heaven God Emperor Qianai Fanshan, Eternal Heaven God Emperor Zhou Zuzi, and Moon God Emperor Xia Qingyue, had personally visited the Snow Song realm at almost the same time. Their presence was definitely shocking, but not unexpected to those who were aware of the truth. The weather throughout the entire Ice Phoenix realm came to an unnatural stop. This unprecedented atmosphere and commotion had also caused every member of the Ice Phoenix divine sect, from the lowliest disciple to the highest palace masters and elders, to fall into stunned silence. These days, everyone was so tense that they were even watching every step they took and every word they spoke. What the hell had become of this world? Since when the entire eastern divine region started orbiting around the Snow Song realm, Yuan-Chi had finally shown himself, and his appearance meant that the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor had something to say. How could they possibly sit still when they knew that the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor's words could decide the future of the entire world? In less than a day's time, nearly half of every upper star realm in the eastern divine region had rushed to the Snow Song realm. Even the representatives from the incredibly distant southern star realms were probably rushing their way over right now. All three god emperors of the eastern divine region, except the missing star god emperor, had arrived. Naturally, Yuan-Chi had no choice but to make an appearance himself. In the Ice Phoenix Divine Sect's guest hall, Xianxia was sitting in the main seat, while Yuan-Chi took up the seat next to her. At a glance, literally anyone in this hall was important enough to stun an entire divine region with their presence alone. Yuan-Chi couldn't help but worry that this guest hall would suddenly collapse under the invisible pressure. "Godchild Yun," Qianai Fanshan said gently with a bit of concern in his tone, "it is good to see you safe and well." "He," chuckled the Eternal Heaven God Emperor while stroking his beard. This old one had noticed the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor's adoration of Yuan-Chi, so he wasn't too worried even though they had gone missing for a month. "It's clear now that my confidence was well-founded. We heard that the two of you were touring the primal chaos," Xia Qingyue said. "Has she formed an opinion regarding the current world?" "The Moon God Emperor's question is also our biggest concern," the Glazed Light Realm King Xu Qingyue said seriously but confidently. "Do tell us what you know quickly, my worthy son-in-law. This is a matter of the highest importance." Plenty of higher realm kings gritted their teeth in secret when they heard Xu Qingyue addressing Yuan-Chi as his worthy son-in-law without any shame whatsoever. They had laughed at him in secret when they had heard of Yuan-Chi's death. But now, the Glazed Light Realm didn't deserve to be this lucky. In the history of the Eastern Divine Region, the Glazed Light Realm had always been the foil of the Holy Eve's realm. However, both upper star realms had had a stroke of good luck this generation. Not only had the Holy Eve's realm produced a genius like Luo Changsheng, even the Glazed Light Realm had produced a Xia Qingyue and a Xia Meiyin with a divine, stainless soul. Moreover, it was looking more and more likely that the key named Yuan that could alter the entire fate of the God realm was going to become the Glazed Light Realm King's son-in-law. As for Luo Changsheng of the Holy Eve's realm, anyone who wasn't blind could see that he had a feud with Yuan. The Holy Eve's realm king must be spitting blood and gloominess every day as of late. Yuan swept a glance across the crowd before saying seriously, "There is no need to worry about Senior Devil Emperor. Back then, Senior Devil Emperor loved the heretic god enough to break the taboo. Naturally, such a love cannot be broken this easily. Although Senior Devil Emperor and the heretic god were separated by the wall of primal chaos, death, fate, and time spanning over millions of years, her love for the heretic god hasn't faded in the slightest. Frankly speaking, their taboo love is most admirable." The crowd exchanged looks with each other after hearing Yuan exclamation. Xia Qingyue said, "Does that mean that Senior Devil Emperor has ultimately decided to set aside her hatred and her fury for the sake of the heretic god's power and final will?" Yuan nodded slowly under the crowd's earnest gaze. "That is so. Although Senior Devil Emperor is the emperor of the devil race, she is not a malicious or violent person. If she was either, the heretic god wouldn't have fallen for her back then. The tribulations she suffered outside of the primal chaos didn't twist her nature, and all the people she hated have already passed away. Even the era she knew is long gone already. Although it has been less than a month since her return, she has decided to set aside her grudge and leave the world in peace. She even promised not to harm any living being unless she was given a good reason. These are all her own words, and not empty guesses of mine." Yuan words were like an immortal tune to the Realm King's ears. More than half of them leaped up to their feet with barely controlled excitement. Are you absolutely certain? The Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor really said that?" Even the eternal Heaven God Emperor had gotten up to his feet. "Amen, I wouldn't lie about something this important," said Yuan seriously. That is wonderful." The eternal Heaven God Emperor looked up and let out a long sigh of relief as if a terrible burden had been removed from his shoulders. His entire body, including his pores, seemed to uncoil in relaxation. The unusually tense atmosphere had also taken a drastic turn. The immense joy and the feeling of having escaped death that came with the news were so strong that even Mu Xunian let out a secret sigh of relief. In his excitement, the eternal Heaven God Emperor suddenly turned towards Yuan and said seriously, "Yuan? No, God-child Yuan. The Devil Emperor's return should have resulted in the end of the world. None of us had even dared to dream of an outcome like this. If it wasn't for you, forget the peace that should come with the appeasement of the Devil Emperor. None of us should even be alive today. Please accept a bow from this old one." He was already bowing by the time he finished his sentence. Who in the world was deserving of a bow from a god emperor? Yuan had always felt a deep sense of gratitude and respect towards the eternal Heaven God Emperor, and it was due to him that he was able to meet the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor immediately in the first place. So how could Yuan possibly accept a bow from him? He quickly got up to his feet and said, "You can't." But there was no way Yuan could have stopped the eternal Heaven God Emperor, especially since the latter was way more powerful than him. Not only did he fail to hinder the God Emperor's movement, the latter had even frozen him with his aura so that the bow would go through completely. Who would have thought that the most respectable and prestigious God Emperor in the entire God realm could deign to bow so deeply to a young man? The eternal Heaven God Emperor rose without looking ashamed or strained by the bow in the slightest. On the contrary, he was wearing a happy smile as he said, "God-child Messiah, there is no one who deserves this title more than you do. There may be none who deserve a bow from me, but you do. In fact, there is no one in the world who shouldn't show you their thanks." The eternal Heaven God Emperor is correct. The Brahma Heaven God Emperor stepped out and said, "You have saved the world single-handedly and turned away the doom of the God realm. There is no one in the world who shouldn't thank you for the eternal peace you brought us." After that, the Brahma Heaven God Emperor bowed toward Yuan as well with complete sincerity. He didn't show any arrogance whatsoever even though he was the #1 God Emperor of the Eastern Divine Region. Why would the higher realm kings reserve themselves when even the God Emperors themselves had given Yuan a bow? They hurriedly rushed forward to meet Yuan Qi before filling the entire hall with praise and thanks. Please accept a bow from this little king, Godchild Yuan. Your achievements and virtues deserve to be remembered forever, Godchild Yuan. Godchild Yuan's favor is something we may not be able to repay even in 1,000,000 lifetimes. Please ask the Infinite Star Realm anything if you have any requests. No one would have believed that an entire group of top-tier experts whose strength and statuses were dimensions ahead of Yuan Qi would bow to him. Shui Qianheng was the only one who was beaming with his hands held behind his back. Why aren't you giving him your thanks, Daddy? Teased Shui Meiyan. HMPH, he's my son-in-law, isn't he? Would he dare to accept my bow? Shui Qianheng said proudly. Shui Meiyan stuck her tongue out at her father in secret before blooming into a smile. There wasn't a single person who wouldn't enjoy being showered with praises by a bunch of big shots who stood at the top of the world, even though the power behind him was the real reason they praised him. In fact, it was probably unprecedented for anyone to receive a bowing thanks from several god emperors in a row. Yuan Qi chose this moment to speak up. There's no need for this, everyone. I'm not finished yet. Silence finally returned to the guest hall as every pair of eyes landed squarely on him. A solemn expression rose to Yuan Qi's face as he said, "It is true that Senior Devil Emperor has promised not to kill without reason or vent her hatred on the world, but this doesn't mean that this calamity is over yet. It seems like all of you have forgotten something important." Yuan Qi's words and expression immediately struck a foreboding feeling in everyone. Mu Xuanian's eyebrows sank slightly as she asked, "What do you mean? Speak clearly." "Yes, master." Yuan Qi hurriedly acknowledged his master before starting. "As you are all aware, the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor isn't the only one who was exiled from the primal chaos. She was accompanied by 900 devil gods of the Heaven Smiting Devil clan back then." The air abruptly froze when everyone heard this. Xia Qingyue frowned deeply before asking, "Are you saying that those 900 devil gods are still alive to this day?" The gazes on Yuan Qi suddenly turned heavy, causing him to speak in a deeper tone before he realized it. Although Senior Devil Emperor was the only one who had returned from outside the primal chaos, that doesn't mean that the 900 devil gods that were exiled with her are dead. In fact, nearly 100 of them are still surviving to this day. What? Everyone shivered like they had been struck by a heavy hammer. The reason they didn't return with Senior Devil Emperor was in case the god race were waiting for them. They didn't want to be annihilated in an ambush after all. Moreover, they couldn't get close to the World Piercer's spatial passage because they were temporarily restricted by the space outside of the primal chaos. "Remember, I said temporarily?" Yuan Qi's voice grew even heavier. Although the World Piercer can't recover its energy quickly in the current world, the devil gods still have enough strength to create a spatial passage that leads to the Crimson Passage on Wall of Primal Chaos. Moreover, they will arrive here in at most several months' time. What? Their earlier joy and excitement were completely extinguished. Shock and bone-chilling cold ran throughout their entire bodies. At the current state of the primal chaos, a single devil god would be enough to destroy the entire world. Almost 100 of them. No one could imagine the consequences if they were to return all at once. "How can this be?" The eternal heaven god emperor's face lost all joy and tenderness. His eyebrows slanted vertically like swords. Although the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor had been sure that Mo-E, the strongest divine emperor of the god race, wouldn't deign to trick her, that didn't mean that she was foolish enough to meet him alone without any protection. She had attended the meeting with 900 devil gods, and all of them had been exiled alongside her. This incident was clearly recorded in the history books. That was why everyone thought that all 900 members of her entourage were dead when the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor had appeared from the Crimson Passage alone. After all, a devil god was an entire power level behind a devil emperor. Even if the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor had been strong enough to survive the environment outside of the primal chaos, this did not mean that the devil gods could do the same. They never thought that the Devil Emperor would just be the beginning of their troubles. Speaking of which, the spatial passage the Devil Emperor created with the World Piercer was still embedded in the walls of primal chaos. The crystal-like passage had shown almost no signs of wear, and it didn't look like it was going to fade anytime soon. Suddenly, Hu Poyun chose this moment to speak up. "There is no need for such panic, everyone. These devil gods still serve the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, don't they? Since the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor has promised not to harm the world, surely she'll control her subordinates as well." Hu Poyun's words steadied their minds a little, and Yuan shot a glance at him before continuing. I had the same thought as well. However, reality is unfortunately much crueler than that. Senior Devil Emperor will not harm the world. That is a fact. However, she has told me with equal severity that the only person she will restrict is herself. She'll not raise a finger against her people no matter what they do after they have returned from beyond the primal chaos several months from now. Buzz. Everyone's aura suddenly fell into disorder. The space in the hall vibrated so much that it nearly caused the guest hall to collapse. They had been overjoyed by the good news, then thrown in disarray by the bad news. Huo Poyun's words had had a calming effect, but Yuan had immediately lobbed a bomb at them afterwards. These divine masters felt like they were riding on a giant tsunami, especially because the crisis was so deadly and close. This all sounds very cruel, but it's a perfectly normal outcome if you actually think about it. Yuan sighed. These devil gods have suffered greatly while they were stuck outside of the primal chaos, and the hatred and grudges they have accumulated for the past millions of years are simply beyond all of our imaginations. Moreover, they were innocents who were dragged into a trap set for Senior Devil Emperor. No matter how kind Senior Devil Emperor is, she has no reason to stop them from venting. That is why Senior Devil Emperor won't restrict them no matter how they vent and twist the world in the future. After all, 1 billion mortals isn't worth even one member of her clan. Moreover, Yuan statements were each crueler than the last, but it was his duty to lay it all out in the clear. These devil gods aren't as strong as Senior Devil Emperor is. Their minds have long since been twisted by the world outside of the primal chaos. Senior Devil Emperor told me personally that her people have turned into true devils after going through millions of years of hatred, fury, struggle, torture, pain, and death. What they will do after they have returned to the primal chaos is unthinkable to say the least. At this point, the guest hall was as silent as the netherworld. The Snow Song Realm's icy air clearly couldn't penetrate their defenses, but they felt like a terrible chill had seeped through their bones anyway. A few months, how many months do we have exactly? Asked the Eternal Heaven God Emperor. His expression looked calm, but his tone had changed completely from before. Yuan shook his head and said, Senior Devil Emperor hasn't said anything. Originally, she was going to receive the devil gods right after the world piercer was recharged. But after returning to the primal chaos, she quickly discovered that its aura had changed so much that it became incredibly difficult to recharge the world piercer. The devil gods don't know this, so they will probably waste some time waiting before creating a passage. Therefore, the best-case scenario should be longer than a couple of months. No, Xia Qingyue suddenly interrupted in a calm tone. These devil gods have waited several million years for this day to come. Once they learn that the wall of primal chaos have been penetrated, I don't believe that they'll wait meekly for the Devil Emperor to receive them based on nature alone. I'm almost certain that they will try to create the spatial passage at first notice. That is why we should prepare for the worst. No one could deny Xia Qingyue's words. After all, these were devil gods who had been tormented for several million years. They probably couldn't wait for even half a breath's time. So what if they arrive sooner or later? It makes no difference. A higher realm king sat down on his chair powerlessly before letting out a heavy sigh. Almost 100 hate-filled devil gods. You said that the world piercer cannot recover its energy quickly. That means there's no way it can create a second spatial passage, the Holy Eve's realm king said in a low tone. In that case, is it possible to destroy the Crimson Passage on the wall? We cannot. The Eternal Heaven God Emperor rejected his suggestion immediately. Even the world piercer had to take several years to create that spatial passage. So how can it possibly be disrupted or destroyed by the current power of our world? Not only would we fail, we might even risk angering the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor. That is true. Xia Qingyue nodded slightly before falling into deep thought. Do you perhaps have a plan to share, Eternal Heaven God Emperor? Asked Xianxia. The Eternal Heaven God Emperor shook his head and said, You know better than me about the limits of the current world. There is basically nothing we can do against a single devil god, much less almost 100 of them. Besides, have we ever thought up with a single strategy that might work against the level of devil gods? Xianxia let out a deep sigh after hearing this. Just as before, our only hope lies in God-Child Yuan. By now, the Eternal Heaven God Emperor had completely ditched Yuan name for the title, God-Child Yuan. He stared at Yuan pleadingly and said in a heavy tone, God-Child Yuan, you're the only hope we have left. No one except Yuan had the opportunity to speak with the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor. You don't need to say anything, Eternal Heaven God Emperor. I know what you mean. Yuan let out a long breath before continuing. The chances are minuscule, but I will do my best. Even if I fail, I will try to get the best outcome out of the worst-case scenario. The Eternal Heaven God Emperor nodded deeply and emotionally before saying, "It is the world's fortune to hear such words from you. Sai, we thought that we possessed the strongest powers in the world, but in the end we are utterly powerless before this tribulation. I'm grateful for your sacrifice, but I'm also deeply ashamed that I am unable to share your burden of saving the world." Yuan said, "You don't have to act like this, Eternal Heaven God Emperor. I am a denizen of this world myself. By saving the world, I'm also saving myself, am I not? Additionally, the heretic god left behind his inheritance specifically for this day. As the successor and the recipient of the heretic god's favor, it is my duty to complete his final wishes. To think that the heretic god would leave behind such a favor to us lowly mortals despite being a creation god, he was truly a great divine being." The Eternal Heaven God Emperor lamented, "If this old one knew this would happen, he would have done everything in his power to protect you, God-child Yuan. At the very least, he wouldn't have allowed you to suffer that near death from several years ago." Yuan smiled faintly at him before replying, "No one would have believed me if I had revealed it sooner. In fact, countless people would have vied for my inheritance. I'm sure everyone here understands what I mean." "Amen, that's true." Xianxia took a step forward and swept a cool glance across everyone's faces. "There is a saying called, 'Treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime.' Not to mention that the world has no shortage of greedy people. We don't even know that the heretic god's power can be forcefully taken away, but that isn't going to stop some people from trying anyway, so hear me. Anyone who dares to harm God-child Yuan will be declaring war against the Brahma monarch god realm. No mercy shall be given." Yuan "The Brahma Heaven God Emperor is right. Forget harm. Anyone who offends God-child Yuan will be offending my star realm." The realm kings immediately echoed Brahma Heaven God Emperor's sentiment. They looked so forceful and angry that it was as if Yuan provokers were their sworn enemies. "God-child Yuan, if you can convince the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor to lay down her hatred, then it must be possible to change her mind again before the devil gods return." The Eternal Heaven God Emperor took a few steps forward and said heavily, "You may be able to save countless innocents and ensure peace if you manage to avert the worst-case scenario for even a little. When that happens, you'll become the true savior of the world, and everyone in the world will respect you for your good deeds. The entire world will retaliate against anyone who dares to harm you, not just us." The Eternal Heaven God Emperor bowed deeply again after saying that. "Whatever might happen in the future, please ask this old one anything if the need arises, God-child Yuan. If you can save the world, then the Eternal Heaven realm will be at your beck and call." The Eternal Heaven God Emperor's declaration was something that could shock the entire world, but it was clear from his expression and the fact that he was making the declaration before an audience that he wasn't joking at all. Every word he spoke had come from the heart. After Yuan announcement, it wasn't hard to imagine that everyone here would be living in fear and anxiety from here on. However, they couldn't do anything despite wielding enough power to awe the world. They could only place their bets and hopes on Yuan. Messiah. There had never been a real Messiah in this world until now. Although the Eternal Heaven God Emperor's words were incredibly stunning, he was right that no praise was beneath Yuan if he really did manage to save the world from this calamity, not even if he was made supreme ruler of the god realm. When Yuan had said everything that needed to be said, the realm kings bid Yuan and the Ice Phoenix divine sect goodbye and left. It was rare for them to gather like this, and had it been any other predicament they would have wholeheartedly seized the moment to discuss plans and countermeasures. But against nearly 100 beings whose power transcended the limits of their plane, anything they came up with would only be a joke. "God-child Yuan, we'll be relying on you," said the Eternal Heaven God Emperor again prior to leaving. Yuan nodded strongly and said, "Don't worry, Senior, this junior will do his best. Also, please call this junior's name directly." All right." The Eternal Heaven God Emperor smiled at him, returned the nod, and bid him goodbye. The pressure sitting on the God Emperor's back didn't fade even after he had disappeared from Yuan sight. Right after the Eternal Heaven God Emperor left, Xianxia walked in front of Yuan and said in a serious tone, "God-child Yuan, you are now the world's only hope. Please ask us for anything if you have need of the Brahma monarch god realm." I will. Yuan Qi nodded with an indifferent expression when suddenly he heard Xia Qingyue's voice beside his ear. He turned slightly and caught her gaze. The latter looked away after meeting his gaze briefly without saying anything more. Ahem, Brahma Heaven God Emperor, has your devilish energy acted up lately? Yuan Qi asked with a concerned look on his face. He, Xianxia smiled before saying gratefully, it has been almost an entire month since it last appeared, God-child Yuan. This favor alone seems beyond Xianxia's ability to repay. Yuan Qi beamed at him and said, it is this junior's honor to help the #1 God Emperor of our Eastern Divine Region. However, this junior's cultivation is poor, and he wasn't eliminate the devilish energy in one go. There is no doubt that it will act up again soon. Yuan Qi took a bit of time to think before straightening his expression. How about this? This junior shall visit the Brahma Monarch God realm and purify the devilish energy in senior again. I'll do my best to purify it also that this will never happen again. Xianxia's eyes abruptly lit up brightly. He was the Brahma Heaven God Emperor and the strongest profound practitioner in the entire Eastern Divine Region. But right now, he looked like he was overwhelmed by the favor Yuan Qi was showing him as he replied in a hurry, God-child Yun's responsibility is to save the world, and Xianxia is just one person in trouble. Xianxia doesn't deserve such a great favor from you, God-child Yuan. Yuan Qi let out a sigh before explaining, haste makes waste. This junior must wait for the best time to speak with Senior Devil Emperor, or his actions will only backfire on him. This junior won't be bothering Senior Devil Emperor for a while, and he is also quite free for the time being, so you don't have to hold back Senior. Moreover, this junior has had the honor to visit 3 out of 4 of the king realms of the Eastern Divine Region, but not the #1 king realm. This junior hopes that Senior won't blame him for mixing business with pleasure. Xianxia looked even more overwhelmed after hearing that. What are you saying, God-child Yuan? The Brahma Monarch God realm is honored to be visited by you. If this is your wish, then Xianxia won't turn down your offer any longer. Xianxia shall head back and make preparations to receive God-child Yuan right away. Xianxia left after he bid Yuan Qi goodbye. His smile was still present, but a flash of doubt appeared in his eyes right after he turned away from Yuan Qi. God-child Yuan, the Holy Eve's realm would like to invite you to be our guest if you have time. The entire sect will rise up to welcome you if you did. Goodbye. Luo Changsheng also bade Yuan Qi goodbye. His smile was neither obsequious nor supercilious. You are too courteous, young Master Changsheng. Yuan Qi was also smiling at him. They almost looked like a pair of normal acquaintances. Goodbye, God-child Yuan. This time it was Huo Poyan who walked up to bid him goodbye. Amen, take care, young sect Master Huo. Yuan Qi nodded at him with a smile. When the experts had finally left, the Ice Phoenix Divine Sect's atmosphere finally returned to normal. Yuan Qi was just letting out a sigh after sending everyone away when a delicate figure suddenly appeared in front of him, smiling. How do I look today, big brother Yuan? Am I pretty? Today, Shui Meiyin wore a blue dress that lessened her womanly charms, but added a couple of points into her purity. Her smile even rivaled Feng Zuer from many years ago. Very. Yuan Qi's gaze was completely transfixed by Shui Meiyin. His nod was almost subconscious. He. Shui Meiyin felt extremely happy after noticing that Yuan Qi was lost in her beauty. She then moved closer and whispered suddenly beside his ear, Big brother Yuan, can I ask you something? Were you bullied by the Devil Emperor? Bully? Yuan Qi didn't understand what she meant. Well, I heard some very strange rumors lately. Since Big Brother Yuan is handsome and the successor of the heretic god's power, there were people saying that the Devil Emperor may have transferred her old love to you. That is to say, the reason the Devil Emperor listens to you is because Big Brother Yuan has sacrificed his body. Email protected, number percent me. Yuan Qi exploded on the spot. Of course not. Who is the bastard who said such things? This is the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor we're talking about. How could she possibly even consider such things? Besides, do I look like someone who'd sacrifice his own body? Shui Meiyin stared at him before nodding seriously. Yep. Swoosh. Yuan Qi immediately grabbed her cheeks and shook her. Yep, your head. Speaking nonsense is all you know, little girl. Aya, exclaimed Shui Meiyin while holding her reddened cheeks. It was unclear if it was due to the cheek pinch or embarrassment. Big brother Yuan just grabbed my face. I'm so happy. Yuan Qi couldn't help but smile at her. You look practically the same as you were back then. How come you haven't changed at all even though it's been 3,000 years? His gaze shifted slightly downward. It didn't look like her growth had gone there either. Shui Meiyan's expression abruptly stiffened when she heard the words 3,000 years. She said flusteredly, "What are you talking about? It's only been 3 years, get it?" 3 years? Until recently, she didn't care about this at all. But since Yuan Qi's age was still in the double digits, she started minding her own age by an unnatural amount. "Fine, fine, 3 years it is," said Yuan Qi with a knowing smile on her face. Shui Meiyan's star-like eyes twirled a bit, and she suddenly leaned slightly against Yuan Qi before saying, "I may have grown 3 years older, but I'm not exactly young anymore. When are you going to marry me?" Yuan Qi looked at her reddened cheeks and tender face before beaming. "If you seriously can't wait, we can always go through the wedding night first. How about tonight?" At first, Yuan Qi had been confused, lost, puzzled, and unsure of Shui Meiyan's obsession and pursuit of him. But now, he was unconsciously accepting and even enjoying her attention. He couldn't deny that he always felt relaxed and happy around her. Not only did Shui Meiyan not grow embarrassed or angry, her eyes actually glowed bright as she chuckled. "That's great. If that's what you want, then I'll submit to your whim, Big Brother Yuan. However, I wonder if your wives will agree to this, Big Brother Yuan." "Ahem." Yuan Qi straightened his expression and raised his voice. "No woman of mine doesn't place serving their husband as their highest priority. You know, it almost sounds like you're questioning my masculine pride." "Yeah, I see, you're so amazing, Big Brother Yuan. I'll be sure to obey you in the future as well," said Shui Meiyan as her smile grew even happier and more mischievous. Yuan Qi was feeling pleased with himself when his eyebrows suddenly moved up without warning. Something doesn't seem quite right about this." Yuan Qi abruptly turned around, and he was greeted by the sight of Mu Xuanian and Xia Qingyue standing side by side less than 10 steps away from them. They were completely silent and expressionless, and who knew how long they'd been there? Yuan Qi's head turned numb as he tugged at his own lips but failed to draw out a smile. He said stiffly, "Master Qingyue, you've come." Mu Xuanian, Xia Qingyue. Qingyue, why did you tell me to say those things to the Brahma Heaven God Emperor earlier?" Yuan Qi forcefully started a conversation. Instead of replying to him, Xia Qingyue turned to look at Mu Xuanian and said, "Senior Mu, Qingyue would like to borrow Yuan Qi for a couple of days. Is that okay?" "No problem. Take him away whenever you want," said Mu Xuanian without even the slightest hesitation. Where are you taking me, Qingyue?" interrupted Yuan Qi. "Wait, that's not it. Shouldn't you girls ask permission from me first?" "Aren't you going to ask why, Senior Mu?" asked Xia Qingyue softly after turning to face Mu Xuanian. "It's unnecessary." Mu Xuanian shot her a glance. "You're not going to harm him, are you?" "Yuan Qi, about that, I haven't agreed to this." "All right." Xia Qingyue saluted her quietly. "Qingyue shall deliver him safely back to Senior Mu in 10 days. Anything's fine as long as he's alive. I won't mind if he's missing a leg or two," Mu Xuanian said with a snort. "Yuan Qi, Master, there's a couple of things I need to." "If you have no need of him, then Qingyue shall take him away right now." "Is that okay, Senior Mu?" asked Xia Qingyue. "That's a wonderful idea. Snow Song Realm isn't going to get a moment of peace with him around anyway." Mu Xuanian agreed to her request immediately. "If it's you, you can probably control him." "Yuan Qi, Macron Japanese letter Macron." Shui Meiyan put a finger to her lips thoughtfully. "My opponents are so scary, I knew I should have brought Big Sister with me. At the border of the Snow Song Realm. Please wait, young sect master Huo." An amiable voice called out to Huo Poyan just as he was about to leave the realm. The young sect master turned around and smiled at the figure who had followed him without him realizing it. "Young Master Changsheng, what advice do you have for me?" He, Luo Changsheng smiled and said, "Advice, I wouldn't dare. I just want to give you my thanks." Huo Poyan smiled faintly in reply. "Your master was terribly wounded and she had lost much face during that encounter. I should be thankful that you didn't blame me for this, much less be deserving of your thanks." No, Luo Changsheng shook his head and said, "Those are two separate things. Whatever the outcome, Changsheng won't forget the favor you showed back then. If an opportunity comes by in the future, Changsheng will definitely repay you." "There's no need." Huo Poyan shook his head and sighed quietly. "My decision that day was my selfishness speaking. You are completely in the right to think that I was trying to use you." You don't need to be so courteous, young sect master Huo. I know how it is." Luo Changsheng paused for a second before lamenting in a seemingly casual tone. "It is the blessing of a lifetime to meet a woman you're willing to spend all your love on. On the other hand, it is the most painful to lose that woman to another person, especially when your opponent is." "Enough!" Huo Poyan's smile vanished immediately as he interrupted Luo Changsheng. Young Master Changsheng, I spent 3,000 years in the eternal Heaven-Divine realm with you. I know just how much you hate Yuan Qi. Luo Changsheng. I'm pretty sure it feels worse to bow to someone you've hated unendingly for 3,000 years, doesn't it? Huo Poyun's words was incredibly direct and emotionless. Luo Changsheng narrowed his eyes before suddenly bursting into laughter. Ha 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 ha, maybe you're right. But that's how fate is, isn't it? Man cannot defy the heavens. If this is fate's will, then fate's will it shall be whether you want it to or not. What else can you do, am I right? In that case, then let us pretend that that day never happened. It will be better for both you and me, said Huo Poyun. Luo Changsheng stared at Huo Poyun, his smile never leaving his face. I understand your meaning, young sect master Huo. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone what you messaged me that day, and I definitely won't be telling Yuan Qi. I, Luo Changsheng, have at least that much principle. Huo Poyun. Flame God Realm has just recently become an Upper Star Realm, and it'll be a long time before they get used to the laws of survival of Upper Star Realms. If you run into any troubles during this period, please don't hesitate to contact me, young sect master Huo. After that, Luo Changsheng turned around and flew away. His figure quickly melted into one with the snowy white background. Huo Poyun hung around for a while breathing heavily. He went away after several breaths' time. Yuan Qi was going to meet the Ice Phoenix divine being immediately after his return to the Snow Song realm. But Xia Qingyue had dragged him away right after he sent off the realm kings who came to visit after hearing of his arrival. With Xia Qingyue's power, it would take her only half a day's time to fly back to the Moon God realm. But since she had to carry a burden named Yuan Qi with her, the process took a lot longer than usual. Inside an average-sized, profound arc cutting through space like a ray of moonlight, Xia Qingyue and Yuan Qi stood alone with only each other as company. Although the Moon God realm no longer had the vanishing Moon Celestial Palace, they still had plenty of high-grade, profound arcs and profound ships. Of course, they were much slower and more fragile compared to the vanishing Moon Celestial Palace, but Xia Qingyue showed no intentions of taking it back from Yuan Qi thus far. What are you planning to do with me, Qingyue? Asked Yuan Qi while admiring Xia Qingyue's flawless back. Last time you left without saying a word, and this time you dragged me away with you by force. You women are so strange, I swear. Anyways, there's nothing to worry about. If the worst-case scenario is inevitable, I'll ask Senior Jia Yuan to protect the Moon God realm. That's not it, replied Xia Qingyue softly. You're not going to show off to me your imperial might when we reach the Moon God realm, are you? We're not heading to the Moon God realm. Huh. Yuan Qi raised an eyebrow. Where are we going then? Xia Qingyue slowly turned around to face Yuan Qi. The lighting inside the profound arc was a little poor, but she seemed to glow on her own like she was bathed in moonlight. She was so beautiful that it was almost disturbing. Instead of answering Yuan Qi's question, she said, "So you did die 3 years ago. Did Master tell you?" asked Yuan Qi after a moment of surprise. "Amen. She told me a lot of things, including your relationship with the heavenly slaughter star god." Xia Qingyue's eyes twirled slightly. Since the news that you bear the divine power of the heretic god has broken out, many people figured out that your relationship with the heavenly slaughter star god might not be as simple as it seemed. After all, she was the one who had gotten the heretic god's indestructible blood at the southern divine region before vanishing for 8 years straight. Moreover, you surprised everyone by going to Star God Realm at the end of the Profound God Convention. It would be harder not to suspect that your relationship with her was anything but normal. Yuan Qi curled his lips a little. Strange. Master is a cold-natured, asocial, and distrustful person. Why would she trust you so much? Not only did she tell you all that, she even let you to take me out without any hesitation. When did you get so close with each other? Did you visit Master frequently during the past few years? No. Not only are we not close with each other, we have barely met each other a couple of times. In fact, the two of us only met once before you returned to the Snow Song realm. That time, Xuanian had slipped into the Moon God realm and questioned her about Yuan Qi's whereabouts after she had left Yuan Qi behind at the Dragon God realm. Why would my master trust you this much? Yuan Qi couldn't understand this, and he was probably the closest person to Xuanian. I suppose it's due to woman's intuition, answered Xia Qingyue. Yuan Qi, there's one thing about the heavenly slaughter star god that you probably didn't know. Xia Qingyue said quietly. When you and I had fallen into Qianai Yinger's hands at the god realm of absolute beginning back then, the reason we were able to escape is all thanks to the heavenly slaughter star god and the heavenly wolf star god. They were the ones who stopped her while we ran. Yuan Qi's eyes grew focused when he heard this. She probably noticed something with her spiritual perception. That was why she had followed behind Kaianai and Gu Zhu. It looks like she cares about you a lot. No wonder you went to see her even though you knew you would die in the star god realm as a result. Yuan Qi's heart sank when he thought of Jasmine, but when he recalled that she was still alive and well, not even the evil infant could cast a shadow in his heart. Also, I think you remember that Kaianai wasn't the only one who was chasing after us back then. There was also an old man in gray who was as powerful as any Brahma god of the Brahma monarch god realm. The Heavenly Slaughter and Heavenly Wolf were the ones who had stopped Kaianai, but your master was the one who had stopped that old man. What? Yuan Qi was shocked once more. He had blacked out because the torture was too much for him, so he hadn't seen Jasmine, Keijai, or the mysterious blue figure. She had sealed away her aura using ice profound energy and avoided using any profound art when fighting against that old man. But her concealment clearly isn't foolproof. This means that she risked losing the Snow Song realm just to save you back then. Xia Qingyue shot a glance at Yuan Qi's face before continuing. Unfortunately, Kaianai and that old man must know that the mysterious culprit who had impeded them back then was her by now. Yuan Qi couldn't say anything for a long time. You died a tragic but satisfying death for love. No one could say that you have failed the heavenly slaughter star god. But did you ever wonder how many people sacrificed their heart's blood just to keep you alive at the dragon god realm? Did you know that they even went so far as to risk the future of their entire star realms? You did, but you went ahead to your death anyway. Tell me, who else except the heavenly slaughter star god did you do right by? He recalled Xuanian's fury when he had returned to the Snow Song realm. His emotions were a jumbled mess right now. She treats you very well, said Xia Qingyue. Amen. Yuan Qi came back to earth and nodded strongly. Master has always treated me very well. I can't remember a single master who treated their disciple this well, even though I have the entire history of the moon god realm in my head. No one has ever gone so far as to risk even the star realm they ruled. She looked at Yuan Qi and asked quietly, You and Senior Mu are just master and disciple, aren't you? Well, of course. Yuan Qi loved staring into Xia Qingyue's eyes, but this time he broke eye contact with her somewhat guiltily and looked outside. Qingyue, you still haven't told me where you're taking me, and what you're planning to do. Xia Qingyue stopped prodding and held her hands together slightly. I'll tell you later, but answer my question first, and you best be honest with me. What is it? You, Xia Qingyue paused for a second before parting her soft lips, can control darkness profound energy, can't you? Yuan Qi abruptly turned back to stare at her in astonishment. You may relax. Remember that neither you nor I were born in the god realm. Our aversion for darkness profound energy isn't nearly as strong as the denizens here, said Xia Qingyue indifferently. Yuan Qi's first reaction was to deny this completely, but he couldn't force the words out of his throat as he stared into her eyes and listened to her words. He exclaimed in astonishment, How did you know? Did Master tell you about this? No. Impossible, Master would never tell you this. Oh, this time it was Xia Qingyue who was surprised. So Senior Mu knows about this as well, Yuan Qi. I thought so. You do have darkness profound energy in you. Although she was almost certain that Yuan Qi possessed darkness profound energy since a long while ago, this confirmation still filled her with complicated feelings. She was a lower realm denizen, so her aversion for darkness profound energy wasn't as deep as a local. But the common sense here and the memories of the moon god emperors before her still informed her more than she wanted to just how hated a devil person was in the god realm. How did you know? Yuan Qi asked with his eyes wide open. He had only used darkness profound energy twice in the past few years. Once when he was spotted by Xuanian while he was repairing the darkness barrier in the world of darkness, and once more when she had asked him to show proof. Besides that, he had controlled his darkness profound energy perfectly. Not even accidental leakage was a possibility. Yuan couldn't possibly have told her, could she? A month ago at the eternal heaven god realm, I had sensed some restlessness from you multiple times while you were purifying Kaianai Fanshan's evil infant devilish energy. At the time, you told me that you were planning to poison him. Now that I think of it, you were planning to poison him using the sky poison pearl, weren't you? What does that have to do with my darkness profound energy? Yuan Qi grew even more confused. At the time, you let something slip. Xia Qingyue shot him a glance before saying, You had said that you could hide the poison inside his devilish aura without him noticing at all. You may not realize this, but this implies that you are able to control darkness devilish energy to a certain extent. This means that you are capable of utilizing darkness profound energy. Not only that, the level of darkness profound energy you can control should be quite high. Yuan-Chi was completely and utterly dumbfounded by her explanation. That's it. Is that it? Isn't that enough? Xia Qingyue countered while shooting a sidelong glance at him. I'm not talking about that. Both Yuan-Chi's eyes and mouth were twitching uncontrollably. It was a completely offhand comment. I wouldn't even remember it now if you hadn't mentioned it. But somehow you were able to guess from this that I have darkness profound energy in me. I know, seriously, don't you think you're a little too sensitive? I'm not overly sensitive, you're the one who's too casual. But Xia Qingyue shook her head slightly and said, no, maybe you were defenseless because of me. Why should I put my guard up in front of you? You may be the moon god emperor to everyone else, but you will always be my official wife, Xia Qingyue. Besides, you're the only old friend I have in the entire god realm. Why in the world should I speak or act cautiously around you? Yuan-Chi suddenly erupted with indignity. Xia Qingyue replied indifferently, have you forgotten? We were all ready. Yuan-Chi curled his lips and cut off Xia Qingyue with a derisive snort. Going to bring up our torn marriage contract again, aren't you? I'm telling you it's useless. Our marriage record is still preserved nicely at Floating Cloud City, and our wedding witnesses are alive and well. According to the laws of Floating Cloud City, you and I are husband and wife unless I've divorced you, or if you bring proof of my failure to fulfill my husbandly responsibilities to the court and sit through a convoluted marriage cancellation process. Otherwise, we'll always be husband and wife. You think tearing up a marriage contract counts as an official cancellation of marriage? HMPH, the new god emperor of the moon god realm is so childish. Xia Qingyue couldn't say anything for a while. Speaking of which, it's your job as a wife to fill your head with wifely responsibilities and romance when you're speaking to your husband, but you... That's enough. Let's talk business, shall we? Interrupted Xia Qingyue in a soft tone that somehow sounded both cool and gentle at once. Yuan-Chi, obediently, stopped his rant and shot her a quiet glance. Xia Qingyue's change was so great that he could lose himself in thought. Xia Qingyue had always had a cool temperament, but even before they had gotten married, or when they had encountered each other for the first time at the god realm, she was still capable of guilt and bewilderment when she had kidnapped him on the vanishing moon celestial palace, shame and anger when he had taken advantage of her, fear and panic when Kai was hunting them down, hatred and even tears. But now it was as if her mind had been tempered by several thousands, no, tens of thousands of years of time. She was so cool and calm today that it was almost scary. Not only was she shockingly meticulous, she hadn't reacted visibly or invisibly to his words at all. All she said was, that's enough, let's talk business, shall we? What I'm about to make you do is related to your darkness profound energy. It would have been worth trying even if you had no darkness profound energy, but the success rate of my plans would have gone down by a lot. It's good that the best case scenario is available, said Xia Qingyue. Knocked down a peg by a soft reprimand, Yuan-Chi had no choice but to cool himself down and talk business. What exactly are we trying to do? We're looking for a protective talisman for you. Xia Qingyue's voice was as gentle as the wind as usual. Right now you're still in great danger. Yuan-Chi absolutely didn't agree with her statement, however. He frowned and said, Qingyue, this may sound a lot like boasting, but I'm pretty sure I'm the safest person in the entire god realm right now, am I not? Yuan-Chi wasn't boasting in the slightest. Jia Yuan's arrival had changed the laws of survival in this world completely, and all those who once stood at the top of the food chain had no choice but to curry favor with Yuan-Chi to live in peace. Even if those devil gods returned and slaughtered every living being in the entire world, Yuan-Chi would still be safe and sound. It wasn't even about his heretic god divine power. His life was tied to hunger, and Jia Yuan would never allow those devil gods to hurt a hair on him. Talisman. Was there a stronger talisman than Jia Yuan in the entire world? The Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor is indeed the strongest protective talisman you have right now. Xia Qingyue did not deny Yuan-Chi's words. Her existence has created an incomparably peerless threat to the universe. But besides that deterrence, what else does she have? And is her power something that you can use, Yuan-Chi? There's no need for you to answer. Without waiting for Yuan-Chi to reply, Xia Qingyue had already continued in a calm voice that could not be called into question. I am convinced that you can't. As a primordial devil emperor, how could she be freely controlled by a human being? Other than that, as the one who has inherited the heretic god divine power, If you had to rely on the strength of others to flaunt your might, she would only feel disappointment, contempt, and even fury. Every single word that Xia Qingyue had said had been right on the mark. In fact, not too long ago, Yuan had given him the same warning, telling him that he should forget about ever thinking of borrowing her power. If I am so convinced, then it will be the same for other people as well. Xia Qingyue continued, furthermore, this point is entirely secondary. Did you ever think of what would happen if the talisman that is the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor disappeared one day? She's the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor who can make her disappear? Yuan asked. When I said disappear, I did not mean that she would disappear. I meant that the special favor that she shows you would disappear. Because in the end, you are only the person who inherited the heretic god divine power. You're still basically immortal and not the heretic god himself. Yuan did not return, yet he still did not quite agree with her in his heart. Because outside of the heretic god divine power, he still had Honger and Yuan, so Xia Qingyue's worries would not actually come to pass. Xia Qingyue seemed to have sensed Yuan-Chi's disagreement, as she gave a soft sigh in her heart and said, there might even come a day when the Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor truly does disappear or leave this world in some way or form. I know that you definitely want to say that it's impossible then. Let me ask you a few questions. Xia Qingyue raised her delicate eyebrows slightly as she said in an unhurried manner, when you died in the Star God realm that year, did you think that you would somehow still survive? Yuan-Chi. Back then, when you had just arrived in the God realm and understood what a king realm truly meant, if someone told you that I would become the Moon God realm's God Emperor in a few years, would you have thought that it was possible? Yuan-Chi. When you lived in Floating Cloud City all those years ago, did you ever imagine that there would come a day when it was your destiny to save the entire primal chaos? Yuan-Chi. In this world, there are many things that can happen even if you think they're impossible. This is especially true in regards to what the Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor wants to do. Whether she wants to do good or evil, whether she wants to treat you well or not, everything is completely up to her and not you. The initiative will always belong to her. So, right now she is indeed your protective talisman, but she is a talisman that can disappear at any time. If this talisman truly does disappear, what will come after that are the incomparably enormous side effects. Xia Qingyue's voice sank slightly, each of her words solemn and grave. The moment you do not have this talisman called the Heaven-Smiting Devil Emperor, you will only be Yuan-Chi then. But who are the people who came to the Snow Song Realm to see you, and bowed and scraped before you today? There were the realm kings of upper star realms, god emperors of king realms. If there comes a day where you become just Yuan-Chi, then the bowing and scraping they did to curry favor with a junior profound practitioner, who was born in the lower realms, would become the shame of their lives. Yuan-Chi could clearly remember Jasmine saying similar words to him back then. He replied, so this is what you meant when you said that my situation is very dangerous. It's far more than this. Xia Qingyue's beautiful eyes unconsciously glanced to the west as she gloomily said, you need to understand, it is indeed very difficult for anyone in your generation to reach your level of cultivation, but the plane you have come in contact with is truly far too high. If someone who hated you stretched out their hands against you without thinking of the consequences, then nobody will be able to preserve your life in time. It shouldn't be as bad as this, right? Yuan-Chi's brows furrowed as he said, if we were to talk about the person who hates me the most in the God realm, it would be that madwoman Luo Guxi, but no matter what. She would not risk Senior Jia Yuan's wrath to come and kill me, right? Once a person's nature is warped by some sort of extreme reason, it will become unimaginably frightening at times, Xia Qingyue said in a gentle voice. Furthermore, the scariest ones are not the ones who always bare their fangs. Instead, they are the ones who are normally the most gentle and kind, the ones who never cause people to put up their guard. I've always understood this point, and when it comes to being cautious and guarded, I believe that I've always been far sharper than anyone else. Yuan-Chi mumbled to himself as he folded his hands behind his head. Qingyue, we are people born in the same year and month, so why does it feel like you're instructing a junior? You can choose not to listen or not to believe, but you must listen to what I'm going to say next, Xia Qingyue said. You don't need to worry if it fails, no harm will come to you, but if it succeeds, then you will have gained another. True protective talisman. Xia Qingyue's eyes focused slightly, and it looked as if a cold moon was flashing in the depths of her eyes. It will be a talisman that will be under your complete control, a talisman that can protect you even if someone as strong as a god emperor wants to kill you. Yuan-Chi was left completely stunned. What Xia Qingyue had just said would definitely have left anyone in the god realm completely bewildered. Did such a protective talisman still exist in this world? What are you saying exactly? Yuan asked. I can't tell you right now because doing so might expose the plan, Xia Qingyue said as she looked towards the south and sensed an aura that was growing ever closer. You'll find out soon enough. Fine. Yuan did not pursue the matter any further. Instead, he suddenly broke out into a smile and said, even if you become the Moon God Emperor, you haven't forgot to be exceedingly concerned for your husband. You are indeed worthy of being called my first officially wedded wife. You're thinking too much, Xia Qingyue said indifferently. I merely want to use your unique abilities to accomplish something that I myself am unable to do. As for that protective talisman, consider it payment for using you to achieve my goals, that's all. Fine, fine, fine. Yuan rolled his eyes, a helpless expression on his face. Eastern Divine Region, Brahma Monarch God Realm. Xianxia Cultivation, who had departed from the Snow Song Realm, had a lot on his mind. As a result, he was not traveling at a very fast speed as he made his way back to the Brahma Monarch God Realm. But just as he entered his central star region, he sensed an aura that should not have been here. As his brows furrowed, he slowly descended and walked towards the Brahma Heaven Temple in an unhurried manner. Once he entered the temple, his brows relaxed and a bland smile appeared on his face. Ha ha ha! A peal of loud laughter rang out in the confines of the temple. This was the most sacred and central part of the Brahma Heaven Temple, yet there was someone inside it. He turned around and smiled cheerily at the entering Xianxia Cultivation as he said, Brahma Heaven God Emperor, you really made this king wait. This man was dressed in silver, his face handsome and fair. He looked slightly shallow, as if he was a young master of a noble family who excessively indulged in debauchery. But the smile on his face was exceptionally wicked, and when one came into contact with his eyes, a chill would involuntarily run down their spine. Astonishingly enough, it was the #1 God Emperor in the Southern Divine Region, the Southern Sea God Emperor Nan Wansheng. Xianxia Cultivation was all smiles. His pace quickened as he raised a hand and said, Oh, so an honored guest has come to visit. This Xianxia left for a short period of time to attend to some matters, yet I let our honored guest wait for so long. This Xianxia is truly ashamed. Did the Southern Sea God Emperor personally come all the way to the Eastern Divine Region this time to ask Yuan about the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor? Xianxia Cultivation asked. No, your Eastern Divine Region is best suited to deal with that matter. Southern Sea will merely follow your lead. There was a bland smile on the Southern Sea God Emperor's face, and he did not ask about Yuan and Jai Yuan either. It seemed as if he was actually completely unconcerned about the fate or future of the primal chaos as he continued. This Southern Sea has naturally come for the sake of Yinger, but it's simply a pity that Yinger does not seem to be in the realm right now. This Southern Sea is simply overcome with sadness. Heh heh, Xianxia Cultivation chuckled as he said, Yinger has always been traveling abroad and she very rarely returns to the realm. Even I rarely get to see her. If the Southern Sea God Emperor wants to see Yinger, I'm afraid you're going to go through a lot of trouble again. No, this Southern Sea has indeed come for Yinger, but I have not come to see her. I have come for another more important matter, Xianxia Cultivation said. Oh! The smile vanished from the Southern Sea God Emperor's face as he released a formless, majestic might. This Southern Sea has already been God Emperor for 20,000 years, but I have yet to crown an Empress. I had originally thought that none of the women under this heaven would be worthy enough to become the Empress of this Southern Sea. At least until I saw Yinger that year, and it was then that I knew that no one besides Yinger could be my Empress. Xianxia Cultivation's brows twitched slightly, and his smile remained fixed in place. Now that the Devil Emperor has returned to the world, the primal chaos has undergone strange changes, and everyone is living in fear and unease. If this Southern Sea continues to hesitate and dither, a calamity might suddenly descend upon us one day, and I won't have this opportunity any longer. Wouldn't that be the greatest regret of my life? So, the Southern Sea God Emperor's smile reappeared as he bowed respectfully to Xianxia Cultivation and said, This Southern Sea has come here today to talk to the Brahma Heaven God Emperor about this marriage that will connect both of our realms. I am requesting that the Brahma Heaven God Emperor marry Yinger to this Southern Sea, thus fulfilling the greatest wish of my life. Xianxia Cultivation's expression did not change. The Southern Sea God Emperor is joking again. I am not joking this time. The Southern Sea God Emperor straightened his back, the smile on his face gradually growing somewhat glaring as he said, In the past, Both of our realms stood on equal footing. So if you, the Brahma Heaven God Emperor, were not willing, then this king would not be able to do anything about it either. But now that the Brahma Monarch God realm no longer has the three Brahma gods, this king does indeed have enough strength and confidence to bring this up again. In one breath, he had been respectful and courteous, and they had been smiling and chatting. But in the next breath, he had suddenly turned hostile, and it was a side of him that he had never shown to Xianxia Fanchen before. Xianxia Fanchen's eyebrows sank dramatically, but after that he spoke with a faint smile. Southern Sea God Emperor, this king doesn't really understand what you mean. Without the three Brahma gods, our Brahma Monarch realm is still the Brahma Monarch realm, and no one can change that fact. So what does that have to do with your confidence or strength? The Brahma Heaven God Emperor is surely joking, the Southern Sea God Emperor said with a cheery smile. If you had simply lost three Brahma kings, then it'd be fine. But all three Brahma gods were killed. Tusk. Even if your Brahma Monarch God realm had 3 heads and 6 limbs, that isn't simply a loss that you can eat. The Brahma Monarch God realm, which has suddenly lost 3 of its arms, no longer has the qualifications to be on equal footing with my Southern Sea God realm. At the very least, that's how it will be for this era. What does the Brahma Heaven God Emperor think? Xianxia Fanchen. Oh, that's right, the Southern Sea God Emperor continued. I heard that the new Emperor of the Moon God realm has an old grievance against Yinger, and she doesn't view your Brahma Monarch God realm kindly either. And as for Yuan, who has obtained the special favor of the Heaven Smiting Devil Emperor, this Southern Sea has heard that the Brahma Monarch God realm had something to do with why he was unable to enter the eternal Heaven-Divine realm, and even had to escape to the Dragon God realm that year. With all of these things added together, I can't help but worry for all of you. Furthermore, at a time like this, if there were people who tried to cause some problems for you due to their unhappiness, the Southern Sea God Emperor said as he shook his head, as if he were concerned for the Brahma Monarch God realm, I'm afraid that it will become harder and harder for this #1 king realm in the eastern region from now on. And if things go wrong, you might not even have the chance to produce another Brahma god. Xianxia Fanchen's eyes suddenly narrowed as he said, Southern Sea God Emperor, are you threatening me? The Southern Sea God Emperor did not deny those words. Instead, he let out a great laugh instead. Ha ha ha, as long as I can take Yinger as my empress, this Southern Sea will not hesitate to pay any price or use any method. If I have angered the Brahma Heaven God Emperor, then after I marry Yinger, the Brahma Heaven God Emperor will be this Southern Sea's father-in-law. And no matter what punishments or rebukes my lord father-in-law wants to hand out, this Southern Sea will naturally take them all, and I definitely won't dare to resist in any way. HMPH? Xianxia Fanchen gave a heavy snort as he said, You should understand better than anyone what Yinger's temperament is like. If she wants to marry someone, no one will be able to stop her, but if she does not want to marry someone, then no one can force her to do so. No, it's precisely because this Southern Sea understands Yinger very well that I presume that the Brahma Heaven God Emperor will definitely be able to persuade Yinger, the Southern Sea God Emperor said as he gave a hearty laugh. Perhaps it would not be possible in the past, but right now, as long as the Brahma Heaven God Emperor is willing, then you'll definitely be able to get it done. Brahma Heaven God Emperor, please don't be in a rush to reject me. Without waiting for Xianxia Fanchen's response, the Southern Sea God Emperor had already raised his hand and said, If our 2 realms were to become connected by marriage, Yinger would be the empress of my Southern Sea God realm. Our 2 realms would naturally be kin to one another, and we would not even need to fear the Dragon God realm. And I trust that there is one more point that the Brahma Heaven God Emperor will definitely be able to understand. Given the current situation, if my Southern Sea is unwilling, it will be extremely hard for another Brahma god to appear in the Brahma Monarch God realm. But if my Southern Sea is willing, and we devote our strength to helping you, it will not be long before the next Brahma god descends to this earth. The Southern Sea God Emperor's words were gentle and elegant, yet each and every word was laced with deadly poison. A huge carrot and a huge stick were currently being dangled in front of him. What was even more frightening was that the stick was real, but one could not tell which part of the carrot was real and which part was fake. This Southern Sea has already said everything that he wanted to say. I believe that the Brahma Heaven God Emperor has been dreadfully busy of late, so I won't disturb you any longer. I'll simply return to the southern region and quietly wait for the good news. The Southern Sea God Emperor gave a bland laugh before he started walking away. Xianxia Fanchen did not try to stop him or say anything, but his hands had silently curled into fists. "Oh, that's right." The Southern Sea God Emperor halted as he turned his pale white face a little. The Brahma Heaven God Emperor should understand very well that this Southern Sea's patience has always been extremely bad, and the moment I lose my patience, I get angry. When that time comes, even I become very afraid of myself. As the corner of his mouth slightly crooked up, the Southern Sea God Emperor started to walk again, and he sauntered out of the Brahma Heaven Temple. After that, his aura swiftly shot into the distance, quickly disappearing from Xianxia Fanchun's spiritual perception. Bang! Xianxia Fanchun smashed his fist down, creating a crack in the great hall that spanned hundreds of meters. "That bastard!" Xianxia Fanchun gnashed his teeth together, his entire body trembling. The Brahma Monarch God Realm's 3 Brahma gods had been killed by a flick of Yuan's finger. Despite that, the Brahma Heaven God Emperor had looked very calm and composed in front of everyone, and the faint smile on his face had not even faltered. In fact, no one could even see any signs of lament on his face, as if he had only lost 3 unimportant henchmen. But over the past month, Xianxia Fanchun had secretly swallowed countless mouthfuls of blood. The Southern Sea God Emperor had been completely spot on. Losing the 3 Brahma gods was equivalent to chopping off 3 of the Brahma Monarch God Realm's arms. Even though they had only been 3 people, they were 3 10th-level divine masters, 3 powerhouses at the level of a God Emperor. The result of losing them was that it instantly created a difference in strength between the Brahma Monarch God Realm and the Southern Sea God Realm. Originally, in the God Realm, after the Dragon God Realm, it was the Southern Sea God Realm and the Brahma Monarch God Realm that were the 2 strongest God Realms. Neither of them could shake the other, and neither of them was able to truly suppress the other either. But now that the Brahma Monarch God Realm had suddenly lost the 3 Brahma gods, the Southern Sea God Realm absolutely had the power to suppress them. In fact, as long as they were willing to do so, the Southern Sea God Realm could suppress the Brahma Monarch God Realm to the point where it would be difficult for them to raise their heads again for a long time, even though this would be an absolutely Pyrrhic victory for the Southern Sea God Realm. Xianxia Fanchun knew all too well that the frightening lunatic that was the Southern Sea God Emperor was definitely capable of doing such a thing. This was the consequence of losing the 3 Brahma gods, which caused their core strength to plummet. Furthermore, Xianxia Fanchun understood that this was only the beginning. The God Realm's cruel laws of survival had always been this way, and the higher one climbed, the more cruel they got.